There are moments when life feels like a weight pressing down on your chest. You wake up tired, even after a full night of sleep. The alarm rings, the rush begins, and before you know it, you are caught in the same loop of demands, worries, and unfinished tasks. In the silence of the evening, when the world finally grows quiet, your mind refuses to rest. Thoughts run in circles, questions pile up, and an invisible emptiness lingers. This is the hidden suffering of modern life. It is not always dramatic, but it is persistent. It eats away at joy, it clouds our relationships, and it leaves us wondering if peace is even possible in such a world. For many, the pain takes the shape of stress. The deadlines never end, and the pressure to perform creates a constant knot in the stomach. For others, it is money fear of losing it, the struggle to earn enough, or the emptiness that comes when it never seems to satisfy. Relationships, too, become fragile under these pressures. Words spoken in anger leave scars, silence builds walls, and love feels harder to hold on to. And then there is the quiet suffering of anxiety, the restless energy that makes us doubt ourselves, fear the future, and hide behind masks we never wanted to wear. We live in a world overflowing with distractions and promises of quick fixes. The next purchase, the next trip, the next success, each one whispers that it will bring happiness. But the relief fades quickly, and the emptiness returns. Like water slipping through our fingers, peace always seems just out of reach. And so, many of us move through life half awake, surviving instead of living, hoping for a solution, but unsure where to turn that, yet there is another way. Long before the noise of our modern world, ancient wisdom pointed to a simple truth. The suffering we face is not permanent, and the door to freedom is already within us. The teachings of the Buddha do not demand blind faith, nor do they ask, "Use to escape from life." Instead, they offer a path to walk right here, in the middle of our ordinary days. They remind us that peace is not found in avoiding pain, but in transforming how we see it, how we meet it, and how we choose to live beyond it. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. The straps dig into your shoulders, and the weight bends your spine. You tell yourself it is normal, that everyone carries something, so you keep walking. But what if you discovered that the backpack was filled with stones you did not need? What if, with a single gesture, you could set it down? This is what Buddhist wisdom offers. It does not deny the stones, but it shows you how to release them. It shows you how to breathe again, how to see clearly, and how to remember that you were never meant to suffer endlessly. This journey we are about to take is not about religion or rituals. It is about life itself. It is about finding calm in the middle of chaos, discovering clarity in the fog of confusion, and opening the heart to love when fear tries to close it. Each step will touch on a different struggle of modern living: stress, money, relationships, anxiety, and more. But each step will also open a door, a practical teaching, a simple practice, a gentle reminder that peace is possible here and now. As we move forward together, let us begin with honesty. Life is not easy. Pain is real, but so is the possibility of freedom. The following chapters are not stories about someone else. They are about you, about me, about anyone who has ever longed for a way out of the endless cycle of struggle. And if you listen closely, you may find that what you have been searching for has been within you all along. The world today moves at a speed that often feels unbearable. From the moment we open our eyes, demands pull us in every direction. The phone lights up with notifications. Emails arrive before the coffee is ready. Children need attention. Bills wait to be paid. The day begins not with calm intention, but with urgency. For many people, stress has become the background music of life. It never stops. It never quiets down. It follows us from morning to night, From workplace to home, even into our sleep, stress is not just an emotion. It is a physical experience. The shoulders tighten, the jaw locks, the breath becomes shallow, the heart beats faster. Sometimes the stomach aches for no reason. The body is trying to survive, as if it is running from danger, even when no tiger is chasing us. The danger is invisible, but the body reacts as if it were real. Deadlines, expectations, and worries become threats in the mind, and the body suffers. Think of a person sitting at their desk late at night. The office is quiet, but their mind is not. A project is due tomorrow. Their boss expects perfection. Their family expects stability. Their bills expect payment. As they stare at the screen, the numbers blur, and the weight of responsibility crushes them. They know they cannot keep this pace forever, yet they cannot stop. This is not just one person's story. This is the story of millions, repeating every night in homes and offices across the world. The pressure does not only harm the body, it poisons the heart. Under stress, we lose patience. We snap at the people we love. We see others as obstacles instead of companions. Small problems feel enormous. A forgotten chore, a missed call, a careless word, suddenly they ignite conflict. Relationships begin to fray, not because love is gone, but because stress eats away at kindness, and stress blinds the mind. It narrows vision. Instead of seeing possibilities, we see only problems. Instead of feeling gratitude, we see only lack. Life becomes a tunnel, dark and suffocating, where the only thought is to push forward, to keep running, without ever asking. Why? In this tunnel, joy feels impossible, and peace feels like a dream for someone else. Why does this happen? Why do we, in a time of technology and comfort, live as if we are under constant attack? The truth is simple. We have built a culture of endless craving. We crave success, respect, comfort, and certainty. We crave a life without mistakes, without loss, without disappointment. But life does not work that way. It changes. It surprises us. It gives and it takes. Our craving for control collides with life's unpredictability, and the result is stress. Imagine holding a rope with both hands. You pull with all your strength, but the rope is tied to a tree that will not move. The harder you pull, the more pain you feel in your arms. Stress is this constant pulling. We fight against what is. We fight against change. We fight against imperfection. And in that fight, we exhaust ourselves. Yet, here lies the hidden key. Stress is not only an enemy, it can also be a teacher. It shows us where we are clinging too tightly. It reveals the illusions we refuse to release. It points to the very habits of mind that create suffering. And Buddhist wisdom offers a path to transform this struggle. The Buddha once described life as a fire. He said we are burning with the fire of desire, with the fire of anger, with the fire of ignorance. Stress is the smoke from this fire. We feel choked, we cough, we panic. But the solution is not outside. It is not in a new app, a new schedule, or a new vacation. The solution begins with how we meet the fire itself. One of the simplest yet most powerful teachings is mindfulness. Mindfulness means paying attention to this moment, without judgment, without running away. Right now, take a slow breath. Feel the air enter. Feel the air leave. For just this moment, nothing else matters. Not the past, not the future. Only this breath. This simple act begins to loosen the grip of stress. When we practice mindfulness, we step out of the tunnel. We see the world again. We notice the sound of birds, the warmth of the sun, the smile of a stranger. We realize that life is not only deadlines and pressure. It is also beauty, simplicity, and connection. Stress shrinks when we see clearly. Another teaching is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It does not mean giving up. It means recognizing reality as it is, instead of exhausting ourselves by demanding it to be different. When rain falls, we can curse it, or we can see its necessity. When traffic slows, we can rage, or we can use the time to breathe. Acceptance is not weakness. It is wisdom. It frees us from fighting battles we cannot win. Compassion, too, is medicine for stress. We often judge ourselves harshly. We call ourselves lazy, weak, or unworthy. This self-criticism only adds to the weight. But when we treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a dear friend, something shifts. The heart softens. The mind relaxes. Compassion does not erase problems, but it gives us the strength to face them. Let us return to the person at the desk, staring at the screen. Imagine if, instead of drowning in pressure, they paused to breathe. Imagine if they remembered that their worth is not measured only by productivity. Imagine if they approached their work with steady attention, without the heavy chains of self-judgment. Their body would soften. Their mind would clear. They would still have work to do, but they would meet it with calm, not chaos. This is not fantasy. It is practice. Anyone can learn it. Step by step, breath by breath, we can retrain the mind. Stress will not vanish forever, but it will no longer own us. We will no longer be slaves to the endless rope we cannot move. Instead, we will learn when to pull, when to let go, and when to rest. As we move forward in this journey, we will explore not only stress, but also the deeper challenges that hide beneath it. We will talk about the fear of money, the pain of broken relationships, the weight of anxiety. Each of these is real. Each of these can feel overwhelming, but each also carries within it the seed of transformation. Just as stress can be a teacher, so can every struggle. For now, remember this: peace is possible. It is not a luxury for monks on mountains. It is not a secret reserved for saints. It is the birthright of every human being. It is your birthright. And it begins not with changing the entire world, but with changing how you meet this moment. Take another breath. Feel the rise and fall. Know that you are alive. Know that within you is the capacity for freedom, even in the midst of chaos. This is the promise of the path we walk together. And this is only the beginning. Stress is like a shadow that follows wherever we go. Even when the day is quiet, even when the tasks are done, the shadow lingers. You may sit on the couch at night, but your mind is already at tomorrow's meeting. You may lie in bed, but your heart still beats fast as if you are running. You may even be on vacation, standing on a beautiful beach, yet your thoughts remain trapped in the office, in the debts, in the endless unfinished list. This is the silent prison of modern living. We have learned to normalize this prison. People wear their stress like a badge of honor. They say, "I am so busy," as if busyness proves worth. They rush, they multitask, they push themselves until exhaustion. But deep down, they long for relief. They long for a life that feels lighter, a life where they are not always running behind, always grasping for time that slips away. Consider the story of a young mother. She wakes at dawn to prepare breakfast, rushes her children to school, works a full day at the office, returns home to cook dinner, and collapses into bed long after midnight. Her body aches, her mind spins. Her love for her family is deep, but she often feels only guilt that she is not enough, that she loses her temper, that she cannot give her children the calm and attention they deserve. She tells herself to be stronger, but her strength is already spent. Stress steals not only her peace, but also her joy in what she loves most. Or think of the businessman who built his life around achievement. He rose quickly, bought the car, the house, the recognition. From the outside, he looks successful. But when the office lights go off and the night grows still, he feels empty. His mind replays every mistake, every risk, every fear of losing what he worked so hard to gain. His success is a cage. The more he wins, the more afraid he becomes of falling. Stress chains him even tighter, and he wonders why happiness never arrives. Stories like these are everywhere. They are in our families, our neighborhoods, our own. Reflections. Stress is not only about schedules. It is about the deep craving to be perfect, to be secure, to be in control of what can never be controlled. Buddhist wisdom offers a mirror here. It tells us suffering arises not from life itself, but from the way we cling to life. When we demand certainty, when we resist change, when we attach our value to success or failure, we create tension that has no end. Stress grows from this soil of clinging. If we change the soil, we change the fruit. Mindfulness, as we explored, is the first step. But mindfulness is more than paying attention. It is learning to rest in awareness without judgment. It is the gentle practice of being present with what is, even when it is uncomfortable. Imagine sitting quietly and noticing your breath. At first, thoughts rush in. I am wasting time. I should be working. I am not good at this. The practice is not to fight the thoughts, nor to follow them. The practice is simply to see them, acknowledge them, and return to the breath. Each return is an act of freedom. Each return loosens the grip of stress. The Buddha compared the mind to a wild elephant. Left untrained, it runs everywhere, destroying peace and causing harm. But with patience and guidance, the elephant becomes strong, steady, and gentle. The mind, too, can be trained. Stress is not a permanent state. It is the wild elephant running loose. With mindfulness, we learn to guide it, to calm it, to use its power for good. Another teaching is impermanence. Stress often feels endless. We think, this will never end. I will always feel this way. But nothing in life lasts forever. Storms pass. Seasons change. Even the heaviest grief softens with time. When we remember impermanence, we loosen our fear. We stop believing the lie that today's stress is our destiny. We remember this moment will pass, and with it is pain. There is also the wisdom of letting go. Imagine holding a burning coal in your hand. You feel the heat, the pain. You know it hurts, yet you refuse to release it because you are angry, because you want someone else to suffer too, because you believe holding it proves something. Stress is often this burning coal. We hold it tight, believing we must, when freedom lies in simply letting go. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means releasing the unnecessary weight of control, fear, and perfection. It means doing what we can with steady effort, then resting in trust that the world will move as it must. Compassion deepens this path. Compassion for ourselves. Compassion for others who suffer the same weight. When we realize that stress is not a private failure, but a shared human experience, our hearts open. We see that millions of people carry similar burdens. This recognition brings tenderness. Instead of harsh self-criticism, we bring kindness. Instead of resentment toward others, we bring patience. Compassion transforms stress from isolation into connection. Practical steps also arise from these teachings. Begin with the breath. When stress rises, pause. Take 3 slow breaths. Feel the body soften. This simple pause interrupts the spiral of panic. Next, bring awareness to the body. Notice the shoulders, the jaw, the chest. Relax them gently. Small acts of awareness create space. In that space, stress loses its control. Another step is gratitude. Stress makes us blind to what is good. We see only problems. But when we pause to notice a child's laughter, the comfort of a warm meal, the gift of being alive, something shifts. Gratitude opens the heart. It reminds us that even in difficulty, life contains blessings. Gratitude does not erase stress, but it balances it. It brings light into the tunnel. Over time, with practice, stress becomes less of a master and more of a messenger. It signals when we are clinging too tightly. It reminds us to pause, to breathe, to let go. It invites us to return to balance. In this way, stress itself becomes part of the path, a teacher that points us back to freedom. The young mother, when she learns to pause and breathe, finds small moments of peace in the middle of her busy day. She learns to forgive herself for not being perfect. She learns that her children need not a flawless parent, but a loving one. The businessman, when he sees the impermanence of success and failure, feels the cage open. He still works, but without the desperate clinging. He begins to enjoy life again, instead of fearing loss. These transformations are not overnight miracles. They are slow, steady shifts, but they are real. And they are possible for anyone who chooses to walk the path. As this first step of our journey closes, remember, stress does not define you. It is a passing storm, not the sky itself. You are the sky, vast, open, unbroken, while stress is only a cloud drifting across. The sky does not fight the cloud. It allows it to come and go. In the same way, you can learn to let stress rise and fall without losing yourself. And this is only the beginning, for stress is not the only shadow we face. Beyond it lies the fear of money, the endless chase for security, the anxiety of not having enough, or of losing what we already have. This next challenge weighs heavily on countless hearts, creating sleepless nights and restless days. Just as we have seen with stress, this suffering too carries within it the seed of transformation. Let us now turn to that next struggle and discover the wisdom that can set us free. Money is a constant presence in modern life. It buys food, pays rent, covers medical care, and secures the future. Without it, survival feels impossible. Yet, even with enough, peace rarely follows. Money is both necessary and deceptive. It promises comfort, yet often delivers fear. It promises freedom, yet often binds us tighter. For many people, money is not just a tool. It is a source of endless anxiety. Consider the family living paycheck to paycheck. Every bill feels like a threat. The rent rises, groceries cost more, and emergencies lurk around the corner. A broken car, an illness, a lost job, any of these could collapse the fragile balance. Each envelope in the mailbox feels heavy, as if it carries judgment. In such a life, sleep is shallow, joy is fleeting, and fear is constant. Now think of the wealthy entrepreneur. From the outside, they appear free. They live in a large house, drive expensive cars, and travel at will. Yet, inside, their mind is restless. They worry about investments, competitors, taxes, and the possibility of losing it all. Their fortune, instead of offering peace, becomes a cage of golden bars. The more they own, the more they fear. They check markets before bed, read reports at midnight, and wake up with a knot in their chest. The money protects their body, but enslaves their mind. Two stories, one truth. Money cannot guarantee peace. The poor suffer because they do not have enough. The rich suffer because they fear losing what they have. In both cases, money rules the heart. Why does this happen? The Buddha described it clearly. Craving is endless. If you satisfy one desire, another arises. You buy a new phone, and soon you want the newer model. You save enough for comfort, and soon you want more for security. The hunger does not end. Like drinking salty water, the more you consume, the more thirsty you become. This craving is not only for objects, it is for certainty. We want to know that tomorrow will be safe. We want to know that our children will not suffer. We want to know that our work will pay off. But life never offers such guarantees. It changes. It surprises. It breaks our plans. And so, we cling to money as if it could stop impermanence. But it cannot. The pain deepens because society glorifies wealth. From advertisements to movies, we are told that happiness comes with the next purchase. The bigger house, the better job. Success is measured in numbers. Value is measured in possessions. Children grow up believing that their worth depends on income. Adults carry this belief into every stage of life. The result is a world where even those with enough feel poor. Imagine a man who earns a comfortable salary. He has food, shelter, and safety. Yet when he sees his neighbor's new car, he feels lacking. When his friend posts vacation photos, he feels behind. Comparison robs him of peace. His life is full, yet his heart is empty. Money has become not a tool, but a mirror reflecting his insecurity. Buddhist wisdom offers a different mirror. It teaches that true wealth is not in the bank, but in the heart. Generosity, gratitude, and contentment are the currencies that never lose value. When we cultivate these qualities, fear loosens. We realize that money is important, but it is not ultimate. It can buy comfort, but it cannot buy freedom. Generosity is the first step. It may seem impossible. How can giving bring peace when we already feel we lack? Yet generosity transforms the relationship with money. Instead of clinging, we release. Instead of fearing loss, we discover abundance. Imagine offering a meal to someone hungry. For that moment, money becomes more than paper. It becomes compassion. The heart expands and anxiety softens. Gratitude is another key. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present. Each day, we can notice the food on the table, the roof above, the breath in our lungs. Gratitude does not erase financial struggles, but it restores balance. It reminds us that life contains gifts beyond measure. Gratitude is wealth of the soul. Contentment is the crown jewel. Contentment means recognizing enough. It does not mean laziness or lack of ambition. It means seeing clearly that happiness does not depend on endless accumulation. When we realize that enough food, enough shelter, and enough love are treasures, we stop chasing illusions. Contentment frees us from the race that never ends. The Buddha once told a story of a man who found great treasure. At first, he felt joy, but soon he feared thieves. He built walls, hired guards, and lived in constant worry. The treasure became a burden heavier than poverty. Only when he learned to share it did he find rest. The story reveals a deep truth. Wealth without wisdom multiplies suffering. Wealth with wisdom multiplies peace. Practical steps can help. Begin with awareness. Notice your thoughts about money. Do they come with fear? With envy? With shame? Naming these feelings is the first act of freedom. Then, practice generosity, even in small ways. Share a smile, a kind word, a coin, or a meal. Each act loosens the grip of fear. Practice gratitude daily. Write down 3 things you already have that bring comfort. Over time, this practice rewires the mind. And practice contentment. When the urge arises to buy more, pause and ask, do I truly need this? Or is my heart searching for something money cannot provide? These practices do not erase bills. They do not cancel the realities of survival, but they shift the heart. They remind us that money is a tool, not a master. They reveal that freedom does not depend on numbers, but on perspective. The family living paycheck to paycheck can still find moments of gratitude for each meal, for each day together, for each small act of support. This gratitude gives them strength to endure hardship with dignity. The wealthy entrepreneur can still practice generosity, sharing wealth with others, supporting causes that matter, offering compassion instead of control. This generosity transforms wealth from a cage into a channel of love. In both cases, the path is the same, turning inward, loosening craving, and rediscovering peace. As we close this first half of our reflection on money, remember, fear about money is not a sign of weakness. It is a shared human struggle, but fear is not the final word. With awareness, generosity, gratitude, and contentment, we begin to free ourselves. Money will always play a role in life, but it does not need to rule the heart. And yet, money is only one part of the human story. Beyond survival, beyond possessions, lies another pain, the struggle of relationships. Love, family, friendship, these are the bonds that make life meaningful. Yet they are also fragile. Stress, anger, and misunderstanding tear them apart. In the next step of our journey, we will see how Buddhist wisdom can guide us through the storms of human connection, and how compassion can heal even the deepest wounds. Money is not only about survival. It also becomes tangled with our identity. People define themselves by what they earn, what they own, or what they can display to the world. A job title, a bank balance, a neighborhood, these become symbols of self-worth. When money flows, pride grows. When money struggles, shame rises. This attachment creates a dangerous cycle because identity built on wealth is always unstable. Think of a man who loses his job after 20 years. His savings shrink, and suddenly he feels less valuable. His family still loves him. His friends still care for him, but he sees only failure. He believes he is no longer a provider, no longer respected. In truth, his worth as a human being has not changed, but his mind has tied his value to money. And so he suffers, not only from financial loss, but from an identity collapse. Now picture a young woman who works tirelessly for a promotion. She achieves it, doubles her income, and buys everything she dreamed of. For a moment, she feels powerful. But soon, doubt creeps in. Will she keep this position? Will she earn more next year? Will others respect her if she stops climbing? The fear of falling overshadows the joy of rising. Money gave her status, but it also gave her insecurity. Buddhist wisdom cuts through this illusion with clarity. It reminds us that identity based on external conditions is fragile. Wealth, beauty, status, all are impermanent. To tie our value to them is to build a house on sand. True worth does not come from possessions. It comes from the heart. It comes from kindness, compassion, and wisdom, qualities that cannot be lost when the market crashes or the job disappears. The Buddha once said, "Contentment is the greatest wealth." This teaching reveals a paradox. A person with little money, but a content heart, is richer than a billionaire consumed by fear. Contentment cannot be purchased. It is cultivated. It grows when we see clearly that our worth is not for sale. But how do we practice this? How do we release the grip of money on our identity? The first step is awareness. We must ask, do I see myself as valuable only when I earn more? Do I feel ashamed when I cannot spend like others? Do I compare my worth to numbers in a bank account? These questions reveal hidden beliefs. Once seen, they lose power. The second step is redefining success. Instead of measuring life by income, we measure it by peace, by love, by integrity. A teacher guiding children, a nurse caring for patients, a parent nurturing a child. These lives may not bring fame or fortune, but they hold immeasurable value. When we honor such value, we free ourselves from society's narrow definition of success. The third step is practicing generosity, not just with money, but with time, attention, and care. When we give, we discover that our worth is not tied to what we keep, but to what we share. Generosity proves that value flows from the heart, not the wallet. There is a story of a monk who lived with almost nothing. He owned only a robe and a bowl. One day, a thief entered his hut. The monk, seeing the thief, said, "You came for something valuable. Please take my robe as well." The thief, shocked, fled with tears in his eyes. The monk smiled under the moonlight and whispered, "If only I could give him this beautiful moon too." The monk's wealth was not in objects, but in freedom. He had nothing to lose, and so he had everything. This story may feel distant from modern life, but the lesson is clear. When we cling less, we fear less. When we define ourselves not by possessions, but by compassion, we discover a wealth that no thief can steal. Money also affects relationships. Couples argue over expenses. Families split over inheritance. Friends drift apart when financial differences grow. Money has the power to divide because it exposes desires, fears, and attachments. Yet, when handled with wisdom, money can also unite. Shared generosity builds trust. Shared simplicity builds intimacy. When money is seen as a tool, not a master, it strengthens relationships instead of breaking them. Still, the challenge is real. Financial stress can magnify tension in marriages, in families, and in communities. When bills pile up, patience shrinks. When comparison grows, envy poisons friendship. Here again, Buddhist wisdom calls us back to compassion. It teaches us to see that behind every money conflict is the same human fear. Fear of not being safe, fear of not being respected, fear of not being enough. When we see this fear with compassion, we respond with understanding instead of anger. Another layer of suffering arises from greed. Greed whispers that more is always better. It blinds us to enough. It makes us chase wealth even when we already have comfort. And it leaves behind exhaustion, broken families, and a hollow heart. The Buddha warned that greed is a fire. Left unchecked, it burns not only the greedy, but everyone around them. Yet greed, too, can be transformed. When we see its root the desire for security, the longing for happiness, we can meet it with wisdom. We realize that happiness does not come from more, but from balance. We realize that security does not come from accumulation, but from trust in life's flow. This realization does not end ambition, but it softens it. It guides ambition toward service, toward creativity, toward generosity, rather than endless. Accumulation. Practical exercises can ground these teachings. Each month, set aside a small portion of income for generosity. Give without expectation. Notice how it feels. Each day, write down one non-material source of wealth: a friend's support, a moment of laughter, a walk in nature. Each week, pause to ask, what is enough for me? Do I already have it? These practices build new habits of mind. Over time, they replace fear with trust and greed with gratitude. The family with limited means learns to celebrate small joys. Together, a simple meal becomes a feast when shared with love. A walk in the park becomes wealth when seen with gratitude. The wealthy entrepreneur learns to use resources for service funding education, supporting health, planting trees. In giving, they discover joy deeper than any purchase. In both stories, money transforms from master to servant. It becomes a tool for compassion, not a measure of self-worth. And when money loses its grip, the heart breathes freely, again. As we conclude this part of our journey, remember, money is not the enemy. Fear and craving are. Money itself is neutral. It can feed a family, or it can feed greed. It can build hospitals, or it can build cages. Its impact depends on the heart that holds it. When the heart is wise, money serves. When the heart is blind, money is. So let us step forward with clarity. Let us honor the role of money without bowing to it. Let us cultivate generosity, gratitude, and contentment so that wealth, whether great or small, becomes a source of peace. And yet, even if money loses its grip, another struggle remains. It is the struggle of the human heart in relationships. Stress and money affect us deeply, but nothing wounds or heals as powerfully as love. Love can lift us to joy, or it can break us into despair. Families can be a source of comfort or of deep pain. Friendships can bring warmth, or they can end in betrayal. In our next step, we will turn toward this tender and often painful territory. We will see how Buddhist wisdom can help us navigate love, conflict, and the longing for connection. Relationships are the heart of human experience. We are born into them, we live surrounded by them, and we often measure the quality of our lives by their presence or absence. Yet relationships are also the source of some of the deepest suffering. A harsh word from a loved one can cut deeper than any physical pain. Silence from someone we care about can echo louder than thunder. Misunderstanding, jealousy, and unmet expectations create invisible walls that separate us from those we love most. Imagine a couple sitting across from each other at the dinner table. The air is heavy with things unsaid. Perhaps a harsh word was spoken earlier in the day. Perhaps a promise was broken. Each glance carries tension. Neither knows how to begin, so they sit in quiet resentment. The mind fills with narratives. They don't appreciate me. They never listen. They don't love me anymore. These stories grow, layer by layer, until the couple feels like strangers living in the same home. Or consider a parent watching a child struggle. Fear arises. Are they making the right choices? Will they be safe? Am I doing enough? Love becomes tangled with anxiety, and every word carries pressure. Both parent and child suffer, not from external danger, but from attachment and expectation. Friendships, too, carry their share of pain. A friend moves away. Another betrays trust. Another seems to succeed effortlessly while we struggle. Loneliness creeps in, resentment forms, and we wonder whether it is possible to connect without losing ourselves. Why does relationship suffering feel so intense? The Buddha explained it clearly. Attachment creates suffering. We cling to others, believing they should behave, love, or respond in ways that match our desires. We expect permanence in beings and situations that are inherently impermanent. When reality diverges from expectation, pain arises. The deeper the attachment, the sharper the suffering. Consider the metaphor of holding water in your hands. If you grasp too tightly, it slips away, leaving your hands empty and wet. If you hold gently, it rests securely for a moment. Love, like water, cannot be forced or trapped. Attempting to control another person's feelings, choices, or behaviors brings only frustration. True connection arises from presence, awareness, and compassion. Mindfulness is the first step toward healing relationships. To practice mindfulness in connection means to truly listen, not only to words, but to emotions. It means noticing your own reactions before responding. When a friend speaks harshly, instead of reacting immediately with anger, pause. Observe your breath. Notice the tightness in your chest. Recognize your impulse to defend or attack. In that space, you gain freedom. You can choose a response that nurtures connection rather than destroys it. The second principle is empathy. Empathy requires seeing beyond words and actions to the underlying human experience. Perhaps your partner snapped because they are exhausted, or your child resisted guidance because they feel insecure. Recognizing the universal suffering behind their behavior softens the heart. Instead of resentment, compassion arises. Instead of distance, connection emerges. Another key teaching is impermanence. People change. Relationships change. Feelings ebb and flow. A conflict that feels monumental today will likely feel smaller with time. A relationship that is tense now may bloom later when both parties have grown. Understanding impermanence helps us loosen the grip of fear and expectation. It teaches patience, and patience protects the heart from unnecessary suffering. Forgiveness is closely linked. Holding grudges prolongs suffering for both parties. Forgiveness is not condoning harm, but releasing its power over us. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the weight of resentment. Our hearts can breathe. Relationships are not erased, but the space between us becomes lighter. Allowing genuine connection to re-emerge. Communication is also essential. Misunderstandings often escalate because feelings are hidden or misrepresented. Speaking honestly, with calm attention, can prevent small cracks from becoming deep fissures. Use I statements. I feel hurt when, instead of blame. Speak with clarity and presence, and listen without planning your next argument. This practice nurtures trust and openness. Self-compassion underlies all of these teachings. We often approach relationships expecting perfection from ourselves and others. Mistakes are inevitable. Emotions will flare. Disappointments will arise. By treating ourselves kindly, we reduce the tendency to overreact, overblame, or retreat. Self-compassion stabilizes the mind and heart, allowing us to respond with balance instead of reactivity. Consider a parent whose child is angry and rebellious. Instead of responding with harsh discipline or shame, the parent breathes, notices their own frustration, and reminds themselves, this child is learning. This emotion is temporary. I can guide without harming. The parent's calm presence becomes a safe anchor. The child feels seen, heard, and supported. Connection strengthens. The Buddha also taught the value of loving kindness, or metta. Loving kindness is a conscious intention for the well-being of others. It begins with ourselves and extends to family, friends, strangers, and even those we find difficult. Practicing loving kindness softens hard hearts and dissolves anger. It is a medicine for relational suffering. Practical exercises include starting each day with a few minutes of meditation focused on sending well wishes to loved ones, reflecting on your own attachments and expectations in relationships, or writing a letter of appreciation or forgiveness, even if it is not sent. These practices retrain the mind to prioritize understanding over judgment, presence over reaction, and love over fear. Stories illuminate these teachings. There was once a woman who felt betrayed by a close friend. Her mind replayed every slight, every careless word. Anger consumed her days, and sleep fled her nights. One day, she paused to breathe and reflected on her friend's suffering. Long hours at work, family pressures, and personal loss. Compassion arose where resentment had ruled. She reached out, not with blame, but with openness. The conversation did not erase the hurt, but it restored connection and freed her from bitterness. Or consider a husband and wife trapped in a cycle of blame. Each day brought more tension, more frustration. They began a practice of mindfulness together, 10 minutes of breathing in silence, followed by sharing one moment of gratitude toward each other. Slowly, the walls softened. Arguments became opportunities to understand, not attack. Small gestures of kindness replaced resentment. Over time, their relationship transformed, not because circumstances changed, but because their hearts changed. Friendships can heal similarly. A colleague misunderstood your intentions. Instead of withdrawing, pause. Consider their perspective. Approach with openness. Misunderstandings dissolve when we respond with calm and curiosity. Connection grows when we resist the urge to judge or retaliate. Relationships are mirrors, reflecting our inner world. If we are restless, fearful, or reactive, relationships magnify those states. If we cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and patience, relationships reflect love, trust, and peace. In this way, inner transformation ripples outward, touching every bond in our life. Yet, we must also accept limits. Not all relationships can be perfect. Not all people will respond with understanding. Impermanence teaches that letting go is sometimes necessary. Ending a relationship does not mean failure. It can mean wisdom and protection for both parties. Freedom is found not in clinging to harmful bonds, but in honoring boundaries with compassion. As we close this reflection, remember, the deepest connections bring the deepest joy and the deepest pain. Relationships are not to be feared. They are opportunities to practice presence, patience, and love. Each challenge is a doorway to wisdom. Each conflict, a chance to transform suffering into insight. And now, as we prepare to move forward in our journey, notice how the themes of stress, money, and relationships interweave. Stress strains our bodies and minds. Money shapes our fears and desires. Relationships touch our hearts with vulnerability and longing. These three areas, so central to human life, can all become sources of suffering. Yet they are also fertile ground for transformation. The path of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom applies to each, guiding us toward freedom, clarity, and peace. Relationships carry more than joy. They carry expectations, memories, and fear. When someone hurts us, the wound lingers. When someone leaves, the emptiness echoes. When communication fails, doubt and suspicion grow. The human heart is fragile because it longs for connection, yet clings to control. The more we try to shape others' actions or thoughts, the heavier the suffering becomes. Consider a sibling rivalry. Two brothers, once close, now speak in polite distance. Childhood wounds, misunderstandings, and unmet expectations have accumulated. Over years, each family gathering becomes tense. Words are chosen carefully, but the heart feels sharp. Each conversation triggers memories of past slights. Both wish for peace, yet both hold on to the pain, thinking release is impossible without the other changing first. Or think of a romantic relationship fractured by betrayal. The mind replays every misstep, every hidden message, every suspicious glance. The heart tightens with mistrust. One partner wants to forgive, but fear prevents it. The other longs to repair, yet resentment blocks the path. Nights are sleepless. Days are heavy. Each wants relief, but neither can find it alone. Buddhist teachings illuminate these patterns. Suffering in relationships often arises from attachment and aversion. We attach to others behaving as we wish. We resist when they do not. This creates cycles of expectation and disappointment. The mind clings, the heart resists, and conflict grows. Understanding impermanence is crucial. People, emotions, and circumstances are constantly changing. Accepting change reduces the pain of attachment. Mindfulness in relationships means observing these cycles. When tension arises, pause. Notice your body. Feel your breath. Recognize your impulses without acting on them. Awareness alone interrupts habitual reactions. With each pause, space opens. With space, choice emerges. Instead of reacting with anger, we respond with compassion. Instead of blaming, we seek understanding. Empathy strengthens this practice. Consider the perspective of the other person. What are they experiencing behind their words or actions? Often fear, insecurity, or unhealed wounds drive behavior. Seeing these causes with empathy softens the mind. Instead of resentment, understanding appears. Instead of conflict, dialogue emerges. Forgiveness is a powerful tool. It does not mean condoning harm or forgetting betrayal. Forgiveness is a release of the burden that anger and resentment impose on the heart. A person who forgives may still maintain boundaries, but they no longer carry the weight of bitterness. Forgiveness is freedom. There is a story of a teacher and a student. The student made a grave mistake, betraying trust in a critical moment. The teacher, aware of the pain, did not react with anger. Instead, the teacher guided the student through reflection, encouraging responsibility and understanding. The student, met with calm rather than blame, transformed the mistake into learning. Forgiveness in that moment created growth rather than continued suffering. Boundaries are another essential principle. Compassion does not mean tolerating harm. Sometimes love requires saying no or creating distance. Healthy relationships respect mutual needs. Setting boundaries protects the heart while maintaining clarity and connection. This balance prevents repeated pain and builds trust. Self-reflection is equally important. Conflicts often reveal patterns. In ourselves, do we overreact? Do we cling to control? Do we expect perfection? Looking inward allows us to transform habitual responses. As the mind calms, interactions change. We become less reactive, more aware, more loving. Relationships improve naturally when we work on our inner state. Another teaching is interdependence. No relationship exists in isolation. Each person brings their history, habits, and fears. Recognizing interconnectedness fosters patience. Instead of seeing others as obstacles, we see them as part of a shared human experience. This perspective reduces blame and enhances cooperation. Love, when guided by mindfulness, transforms. It is no longer a demand or a transaction. It becomes presence, care, and respect. Love is steady, even in conflict. Love holds space for growth. Love allows imperfection. In this way, relationships become mirrors, not prisons. They reflect the inner state. When our heart is calm, relationships flourish. When our heart is reactive, suffering grows. Practical exercises include pausing before, responding to a heated message or conversation, observing the body's tension and the mind's narrative, practicing loving kindness meditation towards someone difficult, writing down grievances to release them without confrontation, expressing gratitude regularly to partners, friends, or family members. These small practices create lasting transformation. Consider a story of reconciliation between long-lost friends. Years of misunderstandings had created distance. One day, one friend reached out with a simple gesture of acknowledgement. No blame was cast, no justification demanded. Slowly, letters turned into calls into visits. Trust returned, not because the past changed, but because hearts shifted. Patience, openness, and forgiveness built a bridge that had once seemed impossible. Romantic relationships illustrate similar truths. A couple on the verge of separation begins a practice of shared mindfulness, 10 minutes of silent meditation, together each evening. Afterward, they speak about one positive moment each experienced during the day. Initially awkward, the practice gradually softens hostility, increases empathy, and rebuilds emotional intimacy. Change arises not through force, but through consistent, mindful attention. Family dynamics, often the most challenging, also benefit. Parents noticing their own stress before reacting to a child's behavior prevent escalation. Children learning that emotions are seen and acknowledged, not judged or ignored, develop trust and security. Siblings practicing generosity and patience reduce rivalry and increase cooperation. Mindfulness and compassion ripple through family networks, transforming habitual tension into connection. Relationships are not only about avoiding harm, they are about cultivating virtue. Patience, empathy, generosity, honesty, and kindness all grow through conscious practice. Each interaction is an opportunity to strengthen the heart and mind. Conflict becomes a teacher, misunderstanding a guide, and attachment a chance to practice letting go. Still, life brings loss. People leave, move away, or die. Relationships break or fade. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to embrace grief with presence. Grief is natural. It is not a flaw. When we allow ourselves to feel sorrow fully, we release it more completely. Avoidance only prolongs suffering. Mindful grieving integrates loss into the life flow, leaving space for healing. Emotional resilience arises from integrating these practices. Awareness, empathy, forgiveness, boundaries, loving kindness, gratitude, and patience become a toolkit. Each tool applies not only in moments of ease, but more importantly, in moments of tension. Over time, patterns of suffering diminish. Relationships are less reactive, hearts more spacious, and connections more authentic. The human experience is inherently relational. Our challenges with love, friendship, and family are not unique. They are shared by all. Recognizing this universality fosters humility and compassion. No one is alone in relational suffering. Number 1 is without the opportunity to transform it. As we conclude Part 3, notice how the threads of stress, money, and relationships intertwine. Stress amplifies conflict. Financial fear strains intimacy. Misunderstandings deepen emotional tension. And yet, mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom touch all these areas. The same principles apply: awareness, presence, patience, letting go, and loving kindness. When cultivated, they liberate the heart from suffering across the spectrum of life. The next step in our journey is anxiety. Unlike the external pressures of work, money, or relationship conflict, anxiety often arises from within: the relentless worry, the constant what-ifs, the inner tension that refuses to let go. Yet, as with stress, money, and relationships, Buddhist wisdom offers a path. Awareness, acceptance, and compassion can transform anxiety from an unrelenting storm into a guide for clarity, balance, and peace. Anxiety is a quiet predator. Unlike stress, which often comes with visible deadlines and pressures, anxiety lurks in the background, uninvited and persistent. It can surface as restlessness, a racing heart, or a tension that tightens the chest and the shoulders. Sometimes, it emerges without reason, leaving a person feeling on edge, as if the world itself is unsafe. Unlike fear, which responds to a known danger, anxiety is often invisible. It lives in what might happen, what could go wrong, and what is imagined, but not real. Imagine waking in the middle of the night. The house is silent, yet your mind hums with worry. Thoughts of unfinished tasks, unpaid bills, upcoming conversations, or health concerns spiral rapidly. You try to stop them, but the harder you push, the faster they run. Your body reacts as if you are in real danger. The heart races, the stomach knots, the breath is shallow. Sleep eludes you. Anxiety has taken control, leaving exhaustion and despair in its wake. Or consider a young professional preparing for a presentation. Their knowledge is sound, their preparation meticulous. Yet the moment they step into the room, a flood of what-ifs overtakes them. What if I forget? What if they judge me? What if I fail? Their hands shake, their voice wavers, and the mind magnifies each small imperfection. Anxiety has turned a moment of opportunity into a battlefield. Anxiety often grows from attachment. We attach to outcomes, to the need for certainty, and to the desire to control life's unpredictable flow. When reality does not match expectation, worry arises. When we imagine the worst-case scenario, fear and doubt multiply. Like a child holding tightly to a fragile balloon, the tighter we grasp, the more unstable the situation feels. Our mind, attempting to prepare us for safety, instead traps us in loops of imagined danger. The physical body is deeply affected. Anxiety manifests not only as racing thoughts, but as tension, digestive issues, insomnia, and shallow breathing. The mind and body feed each other. Anxious thoughts tighten the body, and the tense body reinforces anxious thinking. It becomes a cycle that feels impossible to break. Buddhist teachings provide insight into the nature of anxiety. Anxiety is often a product of clinging to the future, to expectations, to imagined outcomes. When we learn to release this clinging, even partially, anxiety begins to loosen its grip. Awareness of the present moment, acceptance of uncertainty, and understanding the impermanence of all things form the foundation for this transformation. Mindfulness is the first step. Mindfulness means noticing anxious thoughts without judgment. Instead of trying to push them away or judging yourself for having them, you observe them as passing clouds in the sky of your mind. Thoughts arise, linger briefly, and fade. By seeing them clearly, their power diminishes. Consider the metaphor of the river. Anxiety is like a branch caught in the current. It floats, twists, and spins. If you grab it, you may be pulled along, tossed, and exhausted. If you observe it from the riverbank, the branch moves with the flow, and you remain steady. Awareness allows the mind to be the riverbank, calm, stable, and unmoved by passing thoughts. Breathing is another key tool. When anxiety tightens the chest and accelerates the heart, conscious, slow breathing brings the body back into balance. Inhale fully, pause, and exhale slowly. Each breath signals to the nervous system that the danger is not immediate. The body relaxes, and the mind follows. Acceptance complements mindfulness. Anxiety often arises from resisting reality. We worry because things are not as we wish, because life feels uncertain, because outcomes are unknown. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean passivity. It means acknowledging reality without unnecessary struggle. This moment is as it is, you tell yourself. I do not need to control everything. This simple recognition reduces tension and opens space for wise action. Compassion is equally essential. Anxiety often brings self-criticism. I shouldn't feel this way. I must be strong. I must control my mind. These judgments fuel the fire. When we respond with kindness toward ourselves, anxiety loses some of its intensity. Self-compassion acknowledges that all humans experience fear, doubt, and worry. You are not alone. Your suffering is shared, and this awareness softens the mind. Practical practices for anxiety include short mindfulness exercises throughout the day. When a wave of worry arises, pause and label the emotion. This is anxiety. It is a thought, not a fact. Return attention to the breath, feeling each inhalation and exhalation. Repeat a phrase of kindness. May I be safe. May I be at peace. May I be free from suffering. These practices interrupt the cycle of rumination and anchor the mind in the present. Visualization can also help. Imagine anxiety as a cloud in the sky. Watch it move, shift, and change shape. Notice that the sky remains vast and clear above it. Anxiety passes, but the mind's true nature, calm, open, spacious dash remains. The Buddha described suffering as inherent in life, yet teachable. Anxiety is a form of suffering that can be observed, understood, and transformed. Awareness alone is a powerful first step. By observing the mind without judgment, by cultivating compassion toward ourselves, and by grounding in the present moment, we begin to dismantle the power of anxiety. Stories illustrate this transformation. A woman plagued by social anxiety feared attending gatherings. Each invitation triggered waves of dread. Through daily mindfulness and compassionate reflection, she learned to notice the sensations without reacting. She began attending events in small increments, observing her thoughts without judgment. Gradually, anxiety softened. She participated without being overwhelmed, connecting authentically with others. The fear remained, but it no longer dominated her life. Another example is a man worried about career failure. Constantly imagining worst-case scenarios, he became paralyzed, unable to act decisively. By practicing mindful breathing and reflecting on impermanence, he recognized that setbacks are temporary, and skillful effort, not fear, guides action. Anxiety no longer dictated his choices. Instead, he acted with clarity and calm. Anxiety is also deeply connected to the concept of impermanence. Thoughts, feelings, and circumstances constantly change. Worrying about the future is often an attempt to resist impermanence, to demand permanence in a world that is inherently fluid. Recognizing impermanence allows us to loosen the grip of fear. What feels overwhelming today will shift tomorrow. What seems catastrophic is part of a passing pattern. This insight brings relief and fosters resilience. Gratitude is a subtle, yet powerful antidote. Anxiety narrows perception, focusing attention on threats and uncertainties. Practicing gratitude expands perception, reminding the mind of resources, relationships, and moments of stability. Even in difficulty, gratitude highlights what remains positive. Offering a counterbalance to fear-got community can also support anxiety reduction. Sharing experiences with trusted friends or mentors normalizes suffering. Hearing that others experience similar worry reduces isolation. Compassionate listening strengthens social bonds, which in turn stabilizes the nervous system. Feeling understood is profoundly calming. Anxiety is both personal and universal. Millions experience it daily. Recognizing its universality reduces shame. You are not defective. You are human. The mind evolved to anticipate threats, to survive in unpredictable environments. Anxiety is a signal, not a verdict. It warns, it alerts, and it teaches if we learn to respond wisely. As we conclude this segment, note the patterns we have explored: awareness of thought, acceptance of reality, cultivation of compassion, grounding in the present, recognition of impermanence, and practice of gratitude. Together, these form a holistic approach to anxiety. They do not erase it instantly, but they reduce its intensity, and they transform its role from master to messenger. This is a skill that grows with repetition. Each moment of awareness, each act of self-kindness, each breath returned to the present, strengthens the mind's capacity to respond rather than react. Anxiety can remain present, but it no longer dominates consciousness. Peace becomes possible even amid uncertainty. The next stage of our journey will explore a related inner struggle, the sense of inadequacy and self-doubt that permeates life. Just as stress, money, relationships, and anxiety touch the mind and heart, so too does the feeling of not being enough. It shapes decisions, behaviors, and emotions. Yet Buddhist wisdom offers guidance to uncover the innate confidence and clarity that reside within each person. Anxiety often hides behind a mask of responsibility. We tell ourselves we are just being careful or planning ahead, but beneath this rationalization lies fear. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of what might happen if we are not constantly vigilant. This fear manifests in restless nights, a racing mind, and a body in tension. Anxiety whispers that we are not prepared, not safe, not enough. Consider the student preparing for exams. Every question unanswered, every minor mistake becomes magnified in the mind. What if I fail? What if my family is disappointed? What if I never recover from a bad grade? The anxiety is relentless, even when preparation is sufficient. The mind imagines scenarios that may never occur, creating suffering before the event itself. Or imagine a parent waiting for news about a child's health. Every minute stretches endlessly. Thoughts spin. What if it is serious? What if I am too late? What if something goes wrong? The mind becomes a looping record of imagined catastrophes. The body reacts as if these fears were already real. Anxiety turns imagination into a tangible weight, and the heart struggles under its burden. Anxiety is not inherently bad. It is a signal. It shows where the mind is attached, where fear has taken root, where clarity is needed. The Buddha describes suffering as arising from craving, aversion, and ignorance. Anxiety is fueled by craving for certainty, aversion to discomfort, and ignorance of the mind's nature. By addressing these roots, the mind begins to calm. Mindfulness is the foundational practice. It is the conscious act of observing thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations without judgment. When anxiety arises, name it. This is anxiety. Notice the physical sensations, the tight chest, shallow breathing, clenched jaw. Observe the thoughts, the predictions, fears, and what-ifs. Awareness itself is liberating. Seeing anxiety clearly reduces its power. Breath awareness stabilizes the body and mind. Inhale slowly, counting to 4. Hold for a brief moment. Exhale fully, counting to 6. Feel the body soften. Let each breath anchor you in the present. Anxiety often thrives on projection thinking about what might happen. The breath returns attention to now. The present moment is safe. The present moment is manageable. Acceptance complements mindfulness. Accept that uncertainty exists. Accept that control is limited. Accept that fear will arise, but that it does not define you. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean passivity. It means recognizing reality as it is and responding with wisdom rather than resistance. Compassion, especially self-compassion, transforms anxiety further. Many people respond to their own fear with criticism. I shouldn't feel this way. I must control it. I am weak. Such judgment intensifies anxiety. Self-compassion replaces criticism with kindness. Acknowledge the difficulty. This is challenging. I am doing my best. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Compassion soothes the nervous system and frees the mind from relentless self-blame. Visualization exercises can also help. Imagine anxiety as a small storm on the horizon. Notice the clouds, the wind, the rain. Observe them without trying to stop the storm. Notice that the sky remains vast, clear, and unshaken above the storm. Anxiety passes, but the mind's true nature, calm, spacious, resilient, remains. This perspective reduces the feeling of being consumed by worry. Regular meditation strengthens these skills. Even 5 minutes per day creates neural pathways that calm habitual reactivity. Focus on the breath. Observe thoughts without attachment and cultivate loving kindness toward self and others. Over time, the mind becomes less dominated by imagined threats, and anxiety naturally decreases. Stories of transformation illuminate this path. A young professional plagued by career anxiety practiced daily mindfulness. Each time the fear of failure arose, they labeled it, observed it, and returned to the breath. Over months, the intensity of anxiety diminished. They still felt concern about work, but it no longer paralyzed them. The mind became a tool for clarity rather than a generator of suffering. Another example is a parent anxious about their child's safety. Each evening, instead of ruminating, they practiced mindful breathing, then reflected with self-compassion. I am doing what I can. I cannot control everything. My worry does not protect them, but my presence does. Over time, anxiety shifted from a storm to a whisper, guiding action rather than dictating fear. Anxiety also invites reflection on impermanence. Every thought, emotion, and circumstance is transient. The pounding heart, the racing mind, the tight chest, they are temporary. Recognizing impermanence allows perspective. This will pass. This is not permanent. Even the most overwhelming worry is a pattern of the mind, not a permanent reality. Gratitude balances anxiety. Fear narrows attention to danger. Gratitude expands attention to resources, support, and blessings. Even in hardship, acknowledging what is already present, love, health, shelter, opportunities, shifts, Focus from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude softens fear and creates resilience. Community support is essential. Sharing worries with trusted friends or mentors normalizes experience. Many carry anxiety silently, believing it is a personal defect. Recognition that anxiety is universal alleviates shame. Compassionate listening and shared experience transform isolation into connection. Practical exercises include pausing when anxiety rises, observing the body and mind, returning to the breath, labeling thoughts as anxiety, repeating phrases of self-kindness, reflecting on impermanence, and listing sources of gratitude. Over time, these practices train the mind to respond rather than react. Anxiety becomes a messenger, not a master. Consider a woman who feared public speaking. Every event triggered panic. Through mindfulness and self-compassion, she observed the sensations without judgment, acknowledged fear, and returned to breath. She visualized the audience as a supportive space rather than a threat. Gradually, she began speaking with confidence. Anxiety did not disappear, but it guided preparation instead of paralyzing action. Similarly, a man worried about financial security applied mindfulness and gratitude. Each thought of loss was labeled and observed. Daily reflection on resources, opportunities, and supportive relationships reduced panic. He acted wisely from a place of calm rather than reactive fear. Anxiety became a signal for attention, not a tyrant dictating his life. The patterns are clear: awareness, acceptance, self-compassion, mindfulness, impermanence, gratitude, and community. Together, they form a holistic practice. Anxiety is acknowledged, not denied. Its energy is harnessed for clarity and action. Its power diminishes and inner freedom grows. The mind, once a storm, becomes a river. Thoughts flow without drowning awareness. Emotions rise and fall without overwhelming presence. Anxiety is not eradicated, but it loses its dominion. The heart feels lighter and life more accessible. This practice also connects to previous struggles. Stress, financial fear, and relational tension all feed anxiety. Applying mindfulness, compassion, and presence across these areas creates an integrated path. The same tools, breath, awareness, acceptance, and kindness address multiple forms of suffering. Patterns of fear and tension in one area are softened by cultivation in another. As part 4 closes, notice the transformation that is possible. Anxiety is not a permanent enemy. It is a teacher. Its presence highlights attachment, fear, and desire for control. Meeting it with mindfulness and compassion transforms it from torment into insight. With consistent practice, the mind becomes stable, the heart spacious, and life more navigable. The next step of our journey moves deeper into the inner landscape. Feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. These are closely linked to anxiety, but carry distinct challenges. They shape our sense of identity, influence decisions, and color every interaction. Just as we have learned to meet stress, money fears, relationships, and anxiety with wisdom and compassion, so too we approach self-doubt, uncovering the innate confidence and clarity that lies within. Feelings of inadequacy are among the most subtle yet pervasive forms of suffering. Unlike stress or financial worry, which have visible causes, self-doubt often arises silently, like a shadow in the mind. It whispers that we are not intelligent enough, capable enough, attractive enough, or worthy of love. These thoughts may be fleeting at first, but they gain strength over time, shaping decisions, limiting action, and eroding joy. Consider a young professional in a new role. They perform tasks well, yet constantly question themselves. Am I competent? Will my boss notice my mistakes? Do I belong here? Even when praised, the mind dismisses it. They must be joking. They don't really mean it. This pattern repeats, creating a persistent internal critic that undermines confidence and clouds perception. Or imagine a parent worried that they are failing their children. Despite love, care, and effort, moments of doubt arise. Am I providing enough? Am I teaching the right values? Will my children resent me? Each day brings new challenges, and the heart tightens under invisible pressure. The anxiety of not being enough grows alongside love and responsibility. Self-doubt often links directly to comparison. In a world dominated by social media and constant exposure to others' curated lives, it is easy to feel deficient. Friends' successes, colleagues' achievements, and strangers' highlights create a distorted mirror. We measure our worth against images, stories, and curated moments, forgetting that reality is complex and hidden layers exist behind every display. Comparison amplifies inadequacy, creating cycles of envy, shame, and self-rejection. The Buddha offered insight into the roots of self-doubt. It arises from attachment to self-image, craving for approval, and the belief in a fixed identity. When we cling to a particular notion of who we are or who we should be, any divergence triggers suffering. We want perfection, permanence, and validation from external sources. Yet life is inherently unpredictable and impermanent. Mindfulness provides a way to observe these patterns without being consumed by them. Begin by noticing the thoughts of inadequacy. This is self-doubt. This is a thought, not a fact. Observe how the mind exaggerates weaknesses and minimizes strengths. Seeing self-doubt clearly reduces its power. The mind learns that thoughts are not commands and identity is not fixed. The body also carries these patterns. Anxiety, tension, and fear of failure manifest physically. A tight chest, shallow breathing, hunched shoulders, or restless movement. Mindful attention to bodily sensations reveals the connection between thought and body. Deep, slow breathing relaxes the nervous system and creates space to respond wisely. Each breath reminds the mind that it is alive, present, and capable. Compassion toward oneself is crucial. Often, we respond to self-doubt with harsh judgment. I should be better. I am weak. I am failing. Such self-criticism compounds suffering. Self-compassion acknowledges the difficulty. I am struggling. I am learning. I am human. Speaking kindly to oneself reduces tension, increases resilience, and opens the heart to growth. Visualization exercises are effective. Imagine a seed buried in soil. The seed is fragile, yet it contains potential. With sunlight, water, and care, it grows. Self-doubt is like soil that obscures the seed. Mindfulness, compassion, and practice act as sunlight and water, nurturing the innate potential within. Over time, confidence and clarity emerge naturally, not as an imposition, but as an unfolding of what already exists. Practical practices include journaling moments of success, however small, to counteract negative self-talk. Each day, write 3 things you did well or faced with courage. Over time, the accumulation of positive evidence strengthens inner confidence. Another practice is to speak aloud affirmations rooted in reality. I am learning. I am capable. I am enough. Repetition reshapes neural patterns and gradually shifts the mind's default response from self-criticism to self-acknowledgement. Consider a college student struggling with academic pressures. Initially, they dismiss compliments, believing praise to be undeserved. Through daily mindfulness and journaling, they begin to recognize their efforts. When anxiety arises before an exam, they pause, breathe, and acknowledge the work already completed. Self-doubt remains, but it no longer dictates their actions. They perform with clarity and focus rather than fear. Social comparisons can also be reframed. When noticing envy toward another's achievement, pause and reflect. They have strengths different from mine. My path is unique. Comparison does not define my worth. Recognizing that everyone experiences struggles beneath the surface reduces envy and fosters self-acceptance. Relationships play a role in self-doubt. Critical words from partners, parents, or peers can echo internally, shaping self-perception. Mindful observation allows us to distinguish between constructive feedback and internalized judgment. Compassion toward oneself provides protection, while discernment allows growth without unnecessary suffering. Forgiveness extends to self as well. Past mistakes, missed opportunities, and moments of weakness often fuel inadequacy. By practicing forgiveness, we release the weight of regret and open space for learning. I did my best with what I knew then. I can choose differently now. Such recognition transforms self-doubt into insight rather than condemnation. Practice of loving kindness, or metta, strengthens the heart against feelings of inadequacy. Begin with oneself. May I be safe? May I be happy? May I be free from suffering? Extend this to others. May my friends, family, and even those I struggle with be safe, happy, and free. By cultivating a heart expansive enough to include oneself and others, the mind softens, reducing the intensity of fear and insecurity. Self-doubt also connects to impermanence. Skills, understanding, and confidence develop gradually. A moment of failure does not define the entirety of your capacity. Just as emotions rise and fall, so too do periods of uncertainty and incompetence. Recognizing this fluidity allows the mind to move with greater ease, embracing learning rather than fearing judgment. A story illustrates this process. A young artist constantly criticized their work, internally and externally. Every piece felt inadequate. Through mindfulness and self-compassion, they began to notice patterns of self-criticism. They allowed themselves to create without expectation. Over months, the artist's confidence grew, not through comparison, but through consistent practice and awareness. Self-doubt still arose, but it no longer prevented creativity. Another example is an employee in a high-pressure environment. Initially paralyzed by fear of inadequacy, they began a practice of brief mindfulness pauses before meetings, breathing deeply and acknowledging effort rather than outcomes. They journaled moments of competence and reflection daily. Gradually, performance improved, relationships at work stabilized, and the internal critic softened. They learned to act from clarity, not fear. Self-doubt is also mitigated through action. Often, inaction fuels fear, creating a cycle of anxiety and hesitation. Taking small, deliberate steps, practicing, experimenting, or contributing in small ways reinforces competence. Each successful action provides evidence that the mind's stories of inadequacy are not absolute truth. The interplay of mindfulness, compassion, impermanence, and deliberate action forms a holistic approach. Anxiety, stress, relational tension, and financial fear all intersect with self-doubt. Addressing self-doubt strengthens resilience across these areas. The tools are consistent: awareness, grounding, reflection, and kindness. When cultivated, they produce an integrated capacity to respond skillfully to life's challenges. As this segment closes, recognize that feelings of inadequacy do not define the self. They are patterns of thought and perception, temporary and transformable. Within each person lies innate potential, clarity, and worth. Buddhist practices guide us to uncover these qualities, revealing that the heart is already sufficient, even amidst imperfection. The next step in our journey will explore the challenges of anger and resentment, emotions that arise when expectations are violated or desires are frustrated. Like self-doubt, these emotions are natural, yet they can dominate the mind and harm relationships if left unchecked. Buddhist wisdom provides practices to transform anger into understanding and liberation, continuing the path toward inner freedom. And peace. Self-doubt is often amplified by a critical inner voice that seems ever present. It comments on our appearance, our abilities, and our choices. It judges what we say, what we do, and even what we feel. For many, this voice feels like an external authority, dictating worth and capability. It can be relentless, shaping perception of the world and our place in it. Consider a writer sitting at a blank page. They hesitate, fearing inadequacy. The inner critic whispers, "Your words are meaningless. No one will care. You will fail." The more they listen, the smaller they feel. Every attempt to create is overshadowed by imagined judgment. The mind becomes a prison, limiting expression and opportunity, or a student in a competitive environment. Every test, every class presentation, every social interaction carries the weight of self-judgment. I am not smart enough. I am not attractive enough. I don't belong here. Each thought fuels anxiety and fear, reducing focus and ability. Confidence erodes under the relentless pressure of imagined inadequacy. The Buddhist teachings address this directly. Self-doubt arises from attachment to fixed identity and craving for approval. When we define ourselves by what others think or by idealized standards, we create suffering. The mind clings to a version of self that is never fully attainable, and the resulting frustration becomes habitual. Mindfulness allows us to observe the critical voice without becoming it. Begin by noticing thoughts as they arise. Here is the thought, "I am not enough." Label it as a mental event, not an absolute truth. Observe its texture, its emotional charge, and its impermanence. Awareness interrupts automatic identification with the thought. The inner critic loses authority when observed. Breathing reinforces this practice. Inhale deeply, feeling the body expand. Exhale fully, releasing tension. Each breath grounds awareness in the present moment, reminding the mind that it is alive and capable. Anxiety and doubt often focus on future possibilities or past mistakes. The breath anchors attention to now, where action and reflection are possible. Compassion is essential. Self-doubt thrives on self-criticism. Countering this requires a gentle approach. Speak to yourself as you would to a friend. I am doing my best. I am learning. I am enough. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is recognition of shared human experience. Everyone experiences moments of fear, uncertainty, and failure. Acknowledging this reduces shame and strengthens resilience. Visualization reinforces inner confidence. Imagine the mind as a garden. Self-doubt is like weeds, persistent, but not invincible. Mindfulness is sunlight, self-compassion is water, and deliberate action is care. Over time, flowers of clarity, courage, and self-acceptance bloom. The weeds may return, but the garden is now tended, resilient, and fertile. Action is critical. Thoughts alone do not change the mind. Small, deliberate acts of competence build evidence against self-doubt. Writing a paragraph, finishing a task, speaking kindly to someone, or addressing a fear directly, all reinforce the reality of capability. Each action challenges the narrative that you are incapable. Stories illuminate these principles. A young musician doubted their talent despite years of practice. Every performance triggered fear and criticism. Through mindfulness and daily self-compassion exercises, they learned to observe the anxiety and return to practice with patience. Gradually, they performed with joy rather than fear. Self-doubt remained, but it no longer dictated choices. Similarly, a new manager feared leading a team, doubting competence. By practicing mindfulness before meetings, observing anxious sensations, and labeling self-critical thoughts, they developed steadiness. Reflecting on past successes and cultivating gratitude for skills acquired reinforced confidence. Gradually, leadership became less intimidating and the team flourished. The mind is also influenced by comparison. Social media, colleagues, and peers often highlight achievements while concealing struggles. Constant comparison fuels inadequacy. Buddhist wisdom advises observing without attachment. Recognize others' strengths without diminishing your own. Understand that every life contains hidden challenges. Comparison loses its power when the mind acknowledges the universality of struggle. Forgiveness extends to self as well. Past mistakes, missed opportunities, or moments of failure often underpin feelings of inadequacy. Forgiveness releases the burden of regret. Reflect, I did my best with what I knew then. I can choose differently now. Each act of self-forgiveness reinforces the understanding that worth is not determined by perfection, but by effort, learning, and presence. The principle of impermanence also softens self-doubt. Thoughts, feelings, and circumstances change. A perceived failure today does not dictate future capability. Skills and confidence grow with effort and experience. Recognizing that all conditions are temporary creates space for patience and learning. Gratitude further transforms perception. A mind focused solely on inadequacy overlooks achievements, strengths, and support from others. Daily reflection on personal accomplishments, supportive relationships, and moments of joy balances perspective. Gratitude nurtures self-esteem and reduces fixation on perceived flaws. Self-doubt often intersects with fear of judgment. A person may avoid speaking up, trying new experiences, or forming relationships because of imagined criticism. Mindfulness and compassion allow observation of fear without acting on it. Gradually, the mind learns that discomfort does not dictate action. Courage emerges naturally from awareness, not forced effort. Relational dynamics influence self-perception as well. Critical words from partners, parents, or peers can reinforce negative self-concepts. Observing these influences mindfully allows distinction between constructive feedback and internalized judgment. The heart develops resilience, while discernment guides growth. Practices like journaling, mindful reflection, visualization, and deliberate action form an integrated toolkit. Each reinforces confidence and counters habitual self-criticism. Over time, neural pathways supporting self-doubt weaken, while pathways supporting clarity, compassion, and courage strengthen. A story illustrates these principles. A student, overwhelmed by self-doubt, began labeling anxious thoughts, practicing self-compassion, and taking small academic risks. Each successful task, no matter how minor, reinforced confidence. Over time, the student approached challenges with curiosity rather than fear. Self-doubt did not vanish, but became a manageable companion rather than a master. Self-doubt is a teacher. When approached wisely, it signals where attachments, fears, and misconceptions reside. Mindfulness, compassion, action, forgiveness, and gratitude transform self-doubt into insight, courage, and growth. The inner critic loses dominance, replaced by awareness, resilience, and clarity. This integration connects to earlier struggles with stress, money, relationships, and anxiety. Each area interacts with self-perception. Stronger self-awareness and compassion reduce the impact of external pressures and internal fear. Tools developed for one domain support the others. Awareness, grounding, and compassionate action are universally applicable. Self-doubt and inadequacy, like all forms of suffering, are impermanent. They arise from conditions and habits, not from inherent deficiency. Buddhist practices illuminate the path toward recognizing innate worth, cultivating clarity, and developing confidence. Inner freedom is possible even in the presence of fear and uncertainty. As Part 5 closes, notice the emerging pattern. Suffering arises, but freedom is always accessible. Stress, money fears, relationships, anxiety, and self-doubt intersect, but the principles for transformation remain consistent. Awareness, mindfulness, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, impermanence, and deliberate action. Applied across life's challenges, these practices cultivate a stable, resilient, and spacious mind. The next stage of our journey will explore anger and resentment, emotions that often arise when expectations are violated or desires are frustrated. Like self-doubt, anger can dominate thought and behavior if left unchecked, yet it too can be transformed. Buddhist teachings guide the process, turning destructive impulses into insight, clarity, and liberation. Anger is one of the most intense and consuming human emotions. It can flare up suddenly, igniting the body and mind with heat and tension. A harsh word, a perceived injustice, or a broken expectation can trigger a storm that feels overwhelming and immediate. Anger often feels righteous, justified, or necessary. Yet its energy, when uncontrolled, can harm ourselves and those around us. Consider a driver stuck in traffic. Another car cuts in abruptly. The mind seizes the moment. How dare they? They don't respect anyone. They think they own the road. The chest tightens, muscles tense, the heart races. Thoughts spiral into judgment, blame, and imagined retaliation. Hours later, the memory of the incident continues to stir agitation. A single event has activated a cascade of mental and physical stress. Or imagine a conflict at work. A colleague undermines your idea during a meeting. Your mind reacts instantly. They are trying to make me look bad. They don't appreciate my effort. They are unfair. Anger surges. Words rise in response, but speaking from this place risks harm to relationships, reputation, and personal peace. The energy of anger moves the mind toward reaction, not reflection. Anger is closely tied to expectation and attachment. When reality does not match our desires, when others behave contrary to what we want, when events violate our sense of fairness, anger arises. The Buddha explained that attachment and aversion are primary causes of suffering. Clinging to how things should be creates frustration when the world is imperfect. Anger is the mind's attempt to correct, control, or resist that imperfection. The physical body responds powerfully. Blood pressure rises, muscles tighten, breathing becomes rapid and shallow. The nervous system signals threat, preparing for confrontation or escape. Chronic anger maintains this heightened state, contributing to stress, illness, and exhaustion. Over time, unresolved anger can erode relationships, self-esteem, and overall well-being. Mindfulness offers the first path to transformation. Awareness allows us to notice anger before it consumes the mind. When irritation arises, pause. Observe bodily sensations: tight shoulders, clenched jaw, racing heart. Notice the thought patterns: blame, judgment, resentment. Simply observing, without immediate reaction, creates space. Space is the doorway to freedom. Consider the metaphor of fire. Anger is like a flame. Left unchecked, it consumes. If approached with awareness, it can illuminate, providing insight. Mindfulness acts as a cooling agent, preventing uncontrolled ignition while allowing the heat to be observed and understood. Breathing is a practical tool. Slow, deep breaths calm the nervous system, regulate heart rate, and soften muscular tension. Inhale fully, pause, and exhale completely. With each exhale, imagine releasing tension, letting the heat of anger diminish. The breath anchors attention in the present, reducing reactivity to past hurts or imagined offenses. Compassion transforms anger at its source. Often, anger arises not from the act itself, but from our interpretation of the act and attachment to a desired outcome. Seeing the suffering behind another person's behavior stress, Ignorance or fear softens judgment. Empathy allows us to respond with understanding rather than retaliation. A story illustrates this principle. A teacher faced a disruptive student who continually challenged authority. Initially, the teacher felt frustration and anger. By observing reactions mindfully and reflecting on the student's background home instability, fear of failure, lack of guidance, the teacher's heart softened. Responses became calm, firm, and compassionate. Over time, the student's behavior improved, and the teacher found freedom from habitual irritation. Another critical practice is letting go. Holding on to anger allows it to fester, creating ongoing suffering. Forgiveness is not condoning harmful behavior. It is releasing the power anger holds over the mind. Visualize holding a stone of resentment. Each time anger arises, imagine placing the stone down. The body relaxes and the mind gains space. Forgiveness liberates energy once trapped in bitterness. Impermanence is another key teaching. Anger, like all emotions, is transient. A heated moment passes. Physical tension subsides. Thoughts fade. Observing impermanence prevents the mind from identifying with anger as permanent or essential. Recognizing that all feelings change reduces fear and attachment, allowing wiser responses. Reflection deepens understanding. Ask, what does this anger reveal about my expectations? My desires? My attachments? Anger often signals that something valuable is threatened or that clinging is present. By interpreting anger as information rather than judgment, we gain insight into our mind's patterns and the nature of suffering. Practical exercises include pausing at the first sign of irritation, observing the body and mind, labeling the emotion. This is anger. Practicing mindful breathing, reflecting on impermanence, extending compassion toward oneself and others, and visualizing release of the emotional weight. Consistent practice gradually rewires the mind to respond with clarity rather than react impulsively. Consider a couple in conflict. Both feel misunderstood and frustrated. Initially, anger dominates, with accusations and defensiveness escalating. Tension. By introducing mindfulness, pausing, breathing, and observing feelings without immediate reaction, the couple begins to respond thoughtfully. Recognizing the impermanent nature of their anger and extending empathy to one another allows conversation to move toward resolution instead of escalation. Anger also interacts with other forms of suffering. Financial stress, relational tension, and self-doubt often fuel resentment. Applying mindfulness, compassion, and acceptance across these domains reduces cumulative suffering. The principles are consistent. Observe, breathe, reflect, and respond with awareness. This integration strengthens resilience and enhances emotional clarity. Visualization reinforces transformation. Imagine a river. Anger is like debris floating on the current. If you grab it, struggle ensues. If you observe it and allow it to flow, the river continues undisturbed. The mind, like the river, remains calm and steady, even as emotions pass through. Each moment of awareness cultivates stability and clarity. Stories from daily life highlight the effectiveness of these practices. A manager facing constant irritation from colleagues learned to pause, breathe, and reflect on underlying causes. Rather than responding impulsively, they addressed issues with calm guidance. Over time, workplace stress decreased and relationships improved. The manager found freedom from habitual reactivity. A parent angry at a child's repeated mistakes practiced labeling the emotion. This is anger. They observed bodily tension, reflected on attachment to control, and extended compassion toward the child. By responding from awareness instead of impulse, they maintained discipline without resentment, fostering understanding and trust. Loving kindness meditation amplifies transformation. Begin with oneself. may I be free from. Anger, may I respond with clarity and compassion. Extend to others, may they be free from suffering. May they be understood and supported. Repeating these intentions reduces habitual reactivity and opens the heart. Chronic anger may also benefit from journaling. Writing about triggers, bodily sensations, and thoughts provides perspective. Reflecting on patterns clarifies root causes and reveals links to attachment and expectation. Over time, this practice fosters emotional intelligence and strategic response rather than impulsive reaction. Anger, when transformed, becomes a teacher. Its energy, once destructive, can illuminate attachments, reveal values, and guide purposeful action. Anger can motivate necessary change, protect boundaries, and assert justice, but only when observed, understood, and tempered with compassion. That self-reflection deepens this understanding. Ask, what attachment or expectation is fueling this anger? What can I do to respond wisely? What does this teach me about myself? With each reflection, the mind shifts from reaction to insight. Anger loses its tyranny and becomes a signal. Guiding awareness and growth. As Part 6 closes, notice the emerging pattern across the journey. Stress, money, relationships, anxiety, self-doubt, and anger all present unique challenges. Yet the principles for transformation remain consistent. Mindfulness, awareness, self-compassion, empathy, impermanence, reflection, and deliberate action. Applied steadily, these practices cultivate resilience, clarity, and freedom. The next stage of our journey will explore grief and loss, one of the most universal and profound human experiences. Grief touches every heart, yet Buddhist wisdom offers practices to navigate mourning, honor emotions, and discover meaning, allowing the heart to heal without being consumed by sorrow. Anger often hides layers of fear and pain. Beneath the heat of frustration, resentment, or rage lie deeper emotions: hurt, disappointment, insecurity, or helplessness. Recognizing these underlying feelings is crucial for transformation. When we address only the surface of anger, it persists, returning repeatedly in similar situations. Understanding its root softens its intensity and frees the heart. Consider a person betrayed by a close friend. At first, anger dominates. Thoughts replay the incident. How could they? How dare they? Betray me? The body tightens, the heart aches, and resentment builds. If the anger is ignored or acted upon impulsively, it grows, affecting sleep, health, and other relationships. Yet beneath this anger is hurt and fear of loss, fear of betrayal, fear of being undervalued. Recognizing these feelings shifts the focus from blame to understanding. Mindfulness provides the essential foundation for this process. Observe the sensations in the body: tension in the chest, tightness in the jaw, heat in the face. Notice the thoughts: blame, judgment, imagining retaliation. Label the emotion: this is anger, this is pain. Observing without immediate reaction creates space for insight. In that space, choices emerge. The breath acts as a stabilizing anchor. Deep, slow inhalation fills the lungs and softens the chest. Exhalation releases tension and calming the nervous system. With repeated practice, the mind becomes less reactive, able to respond with clarity instead of impulse. The physical symptoms of anger, once overwhelming, begin to fade. Compassion extends this practice. Compassion toward oneself acknowledges the difficulty of the experience. I feel hurt. This is painful. I am human. Compassion toward others recognizes their humanity, their suffering, and the factors that may have driven their actions. A colleague's mistake, a friend's betrayal, or a partner's harsh words may arise from their own fear, ignorance, or unresolved pain. Seeing this allows anger to soften into understanding rather than judgment. Visualization strengthens emotional transformation. Imagine holding a hot coal in your hand. The heat burns and restricts movement. If you continue to grasp it tightly, your hand suffers. If you place the coal down, pain diminishes and freedom returns. Anger works similarly. Holding on to it amplifies suffering. Letting go without denying or ignoring releases energy trapped in resentment. Forgiveness is key. Forgiveness is not about condoning harm or denying injustice. It is about freeing the mind from the chains of anger. By forgiving, we release ourselves, not necessarily the other person. The energy once consumed by bitterness is redirected into clarity, compassion, and constructive action. Impermanence is a powerful tool in working with anger. Feelings, like clouds, arise and pass. No emotion lasts forever. Understanding this truth reduces identification with anger and resentment, creating distance between the self and the experience. Recognizing impermanence allows the mind to remain steady while emotions fluctuate. Reflection reveals insight. Ask, what attachment or expectation is fueling this anger? What am I holding on to? What can I learn from this? Anger often signals areas of life where we cling, desire, or resist. Interpreting it as a guide, rather than a tyrant, opens pathways for growth. Practical exercises reinforce these teachings. When anger arises, pause and observe bodily sensations and thoughts. Label the emotion. Take several deep breaths. Reflect on the underlying fears or unmet needs. Extend compassion to oneself and others involved. Visualize releasing the anger as though setting down a burden. Over time, these practices weaken habitual reactive patterns. Consider a couple repeatedly arguing about household responsibilities. Frustration escalates quickly. Words become harsh, and the cycle repeats. By introducing mindfulness, pausing to breathe, observing sensations and thoughts, and labeling emotions, they interrupt habitual reactions. Reflecting on attachment to expectations, they should behave differently, reveals the source of anger. Extending compassion allows calm and constructive dialogue. Over months, conflict diminishes, replaced by understanding and cooperation. Anger can also be transformed into motivation for positive change. Energy released by frustration can fuel constructive action, boundary setting, or advocacy. The difference lies in awareness and intention. When anger is observed and understood, it becomes a catalyst for clarity, not a weapon of destruction. Community and dialogue support transformation. Discussing experiences with trusted friends or mentors normalizes emotion and provides perspective. Hearing that others experience similar anger reduces isolation. Shared understanding strengthens empathy and reduces judgment toward self and others. Journaling is another effective tool. Writing down triggers, emotional responses, bodily sensations, and reflections on impermanence provides insight. Over time, patterns emerge, revealing habitual reactions and opportunities for mindful intervention. Journaling strengthens the mind's ability to respond rather than react impulsively. Visualization and meditation further anchor practice. Imagine a calm lake. Anger arises as ripples on the surface. The deeper water, representing awareness and clarity, remains undisturbed. With mindfulness, breath, and compassion, ripples settle naturally. The lake returns to stillness without forced suppression of the waves. Anger also interacts with other challenges explored earlier: stress, financial worry, anxiety, self-doubt, and relational tension. Each can amplify the others, creating compounded suffering. Applying consistent practices, mindfulness, compassion, acceptance, reflection, and deliberate action across domains enhances resilience and emotional stability. The mind learns to navigate difficulty without being dominated by reactive emotion, Consider a professional frustrated by systemic injustices at work. Initially, anger dominates, creating tension and resentment. By observing reactions mindfully, reflecting on systemic factors beyond personal control, and extending compassion to colleagues, the professional channels energy into problem-solving and constructive action. Anger transforms from a destructive force into a motivating guide for skillful change. Even deeply rooted anger, arising from long-term harm or trauma, can be approached with these principles. The intensity may be stronger and transformation slower, but consistent practice. Mindful observation, self-compassion, reflection on impermanence, and deliberate action gradually softens the mind. Resentment loses dominance and freedom emerges. Self-compassion remains central. Anger toward oneself for mistakes, failures, or perceived inadequacies often underlies outward-directed anger. Observing self-criticism and extending kindness reduces internal tension, preventing projection onto others. The heart opens, fostering understanding and reducing habitual reactivity. Loving kindness meditation amplifies these effects. Begin with oneself. May I be free from anger. May I respond with wisdom. Extend to others, even those who have caused harm. May they be free from suffering. May they find understanding and peace. Consistent practice reshapes habitual responses, transforming anger from a chain into an instrument for insight and liberation. Stories from daily life reinforce these lessons. A parent repeatedly frustrated by a teenager's defiance practiced mindfulness, observation, and loving kindness. Instead of reacting, they paused, reflected on underlying fears driving behavior, and responded calmly. Over time, the dynamic shifted. Conflict decreased, and mutual understanding increased. The parent discovered freedom from habitual rage. A community leader facing public criticism implemented similar practices. Initial anger was intense, with thoughts of retribution and blame. By observing internal reactions, reflecting on impermanence, and applying compassion towards self and others, the leader responded with constructive solutions rather than reactive hostility. Relationships improved, and personal suffering decreased. Anger, like other forms of suffering explored in this journey, is impermanent, teachable, and transformable. It is not the enemy, but a signal, a guide, highlighting attachment, desire, and resistance. When observed with mindfulness, moderated with compassion, and reflected upon with clarity, anger can illuminate understanding, strengthen character, and guide wise action. As Part 6 concludes, note the interconnected pattern. Stress, money, relationships, anxiety, self-doubt, and anger all present unique challenges. Yet the principles for transformation remain consistent. Mindfulness, awareness, self-compassion, empathy, impermanence, reflection, and deliberate action. Applied across life's challenges, these practices cultivate a stable, resilient, and spacious mind, capable of responding to adversity with wisdom and peace. The next stage of our journey will explore grief and loss, perhaps the most universal and profound form of human suffering. Grief touches every heart, yet Buddhist wisdom offers guidance to navigate mourning, honor emotions, and discover meaning, allowing the heart to heal without being consumed by sorrow. Grief is a universal companion in life. It touches everyone at some point, yet its arrival is unpredictable. The loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, the passing of a dream or opportunity, or even the departure of familiar routines can ignite a profound ache. Grief is not simply sadness. It is a layered, complex emotion that can encompass sorrow, regret, longing, anger, and fear. It is the mind and heart grappling with impermanence, with change, and with the limits of control. Imagine a person receiving news that a close family member has died. The initial shock is overwhelming. Thoughts freeze. The mind struggles to comprehend. the permanence of absence. The body reacts. Tears flow uncontrollably, the chest tightens, and the stomach knots. Nights are sleepless, and days feel heavy. Grief is not linear. It moves unpredictably, surging in waves, often triggered by memories, places, or even familiar songs. Or consider the loss of a long-term relationship. Even when the breakup is mutual or inevitable, grief appears. One remembers shared laughter, the comfort of companionship, the intimate understanding that once existed. Emptiness fills spaces where warmth and connection once resided. Anxiety about the future may accompany grief. Will I ever feel whole again? Will I ever trust? Will I find happiness? Grief also arises from less obvious losses, the passing of health, the fading of abilities, missed opportunities, or the realization that life does not unfold as imagined. These losses may not be visible to others, yet the pain is real. Unacknowledged grief can linger, subtly shaping moods, relationships, and self-perception. Buddhist teachings illuminate the nature of grief. At the heart of suffering is attachment clinging to people, situations, and outcomes. When reality diverges from expectation, the mind resists and suffering arises. Grief is the manifestation of this resistance. It is not a flaw or weakness. It is a signal that the heart is attached and that love and care were present. The depth of grief reflects the depth of attachment, and thus also the depth of love experienced. Mindfulness offers the first tool for navigating grief. It is the conscious act of observing pain without immediately attempting to escape it. When grief arises, pause. Notice the body, the heaviness in the chest, the tightness in the throat, the tremor in the hands. Observe the thoughts, memories, what-ifs, and regrets. Label the emotion. This is grief. Awareness creates a space where grief can exist without overwhelming the mind. Breathing anchors this awareness. Deep, slow inhalations followed by deliberate exhalations bring stability to the body. The breath is a reminder of life itself, of continuity despite loss. Each inhalation grounds attention in the present. Each exhalation releases tension. Grief is acknowledged without being consumed. Acceptance complements mindfulness. Acceptance does not mean denying sorrow or pretending the loss does not hurt. It means recognizing reality as it is and allowing emotions to unfold naturally. Acceptance softens resistance, reducing the compounding of suffering caused by fighting what is already real. Compassion is essential in grief, both toward oneself and others. Grieving is not a failure. It is a response to love. Be gentle with the self. This is painful. I allow myself to feel. I honor my emotions. Extend compassion to those who may have contributed to the loss, knowingly or unknowingly, and to those also affected. Compassion eases isolation, reminding us that grief is a shared human experience. Visualization can support healing. Imagine grief as a river. The waters may be turbulent, carrying debris of memory, longing, and pain. Observing the river allows recognition of its force without being swept away. Waves rise and fall, but the river continues. Mindfulness, compassion, and awareness act as steady banks, holding the river while allowing flow. Forgiveness is a profound aspect of grieving. Often, unresolved conflicts accompany loss. We may regret words unspoken or actions unfulfilled. Forgiveness does not erase events, but releases the mind from endless rumination. By forgiving ourselves and others, we create space for healing. The energy once trapped in guilt or resentment becomes available for compassion and presence. Impermanence is the central truth underlying grief. All beings, situations, and experiences are transient. Loss, though painful, is part of the natural flow of life. Recognizing impermanence does not diminish sorrow. It contextualizes it, allowing understanding that grief, like all emotions, will evolve. The river of life continues, even as waves of sadness arise. Reflection deepens insight. Ask, what attachment is revealed through this grief? What does this sorrow teach me about love, value, and impermanence? Grief, when observed with mindfulness and reflection, becomes a guide to understanding the impermanent and interconnected nature of life. It reveals the depth of our capacity to love and the inevitability of change. Practical practices support navigation through grief. Daily mindfulness exercises allow observation of emotions without judgment. Breathing practices stabilize the body. Journaling helps articulate complex feelings, tracking shifts over time. Rituals of remembrance honor those lost and the love shared. Acts of service, offering kindness in honor of what has been lost, extend grief into compassionate action. Consider a person mourning a parent. Initially, the loss feels overwhelming. Mindfulness allows them to sit with memories and emotions without judgment. Breathing exercises calm the nervous system. They reflect on lessons learned and love received, cultivating gratitude amidst sorrow. They forgive unspoken regrets and extend compassion toward the parent's imperfections. Over time, grief transforms from raw pain into a nuanced awareness of life's impermanence and the richness of human connection. Or a widow navigating the death of a spouse. Initially, daily routines are heavy and joy seems distant. Through mindfulness and compassion, she observes the ebb and flow of sorrow. Memories arise, triggering waves of emotion. Rather than resisting or suppressing them, she allows grief unfold naturally. Rituals of remembrance, journaling, and reflection on shared love cultivate healing. Slowly, life regains texture and color, and sorrow exists alongside renewed engagement with the world. Grief also intersects with other forms of suffering, explored previously: stress, anxiety, anger, self-doubt, and relational tension. Each amplifies the other. By applying consistent practices, mindfulness, compassion, impermanence, reflection, resilience strengthens. The mind learns to hold sorrow without being dominated by it. Emotional energy once consumed by grief is gradually available for understanding, care, and growth. Stories illustrate the transformative potential. A person mourning the loss of a job initially experiences despair, shame, and fear. Through mindfulness, they observe emotional patterns. They reflect on attachments to identity, success, and security. Compassion towards self softens judgment. Acceptance of impermanence opens possibilities. The grief of losing the position catalyzes personal growth and new opportunities. What was painful becomes a teacher rather than a prison. Community plays a crucial role. Sharing grief with trusted friends or support groups normalizes experience, reduces isolation, and fosters mutual compassion. Recognizing that sorrow is a shared human condition alleviates the sense of being alone. Rituals, remembrance, and storytelling further integrate loss into the ongoing life narrative. Visualization enhances resilience. Imagine grief as a cloud passing through the sky. The sun is obscured temporarily, yet it remains. Clouds drift, change shape, and eventually dissipate. Awareness and acceptance create the sky of consciousness, vast and unbroken, holding the changing clouds of emotion. Grief, like all suffering, is transformable. Mindfulness, compassion, reflection, impermanence, forgiveness, and practical engagement allows sorrow to evolve from raw pain into wisdom. Loss, though permanent in its occurrence, becomes a teacher, revealing the depth of love, the fragility of life, and the resilience of the heart. As Part 7 concludes, observe the pattern emerging across the journey. Stress, money, relationships, anxiety, self-doubt, anger, and grief each present unique challenges. Yet the tools for transformation remain consistent. Awareness, mindfulness, self-compassion, empathy, impermanence, reflection, forgiveness, and deliberate action. Applied across life's challenges, these practices cultivate a stable, resilient, and spacious mind capable of responding to adversity with wisdom and peace. The next stage of our journey will explore meaning and purpose, a sense of direction that sustains life beyond suffering. Drawing from Buddhist insight, we will uncover how alignment with values, mindful intention, and inner clarity create a sense of purpose that guides action, nurtures resilience, and fosters enduring fulfillment. Grief is not only about what has ended, it also illuminates what has been valued. Each sorrowful moment is a mirror reflecting the depth of attachment and love. Through grief, we recognize the intensity of connection, the significance of relationships, and the meaning of shared experiences. By observing grief mindfully, we uncover the preciousness of life itself, even as we mourn what is lost. Consider someone grieving a childhood home that is no longer accessible. The memories, smells, and images linger. Initially, the mind clings to the past, resisting change. Sorrow fills the empty spaces, and nostalgia turns into regret. Mindfulness allows this person to observe the sensations and memories without judgment. Awareness creates space for reflection. I love this place. It shaped me. Those experiences remain within me, even though the house is gone. Acceptance transforms grief into appreciation, bridging the gap between loss and enduring value. Similarly, a person mourning a failed relationship may feel despair, betrayal, or loneliness. By practicing mindful observation, they notice the ebb and flow of emotion. Reflection on impermanence and attachment helps to recognize that suffering arises from clinging. Compassion towards self and the other allows emotional release without denial. Over time, the relationship, though ended, becomes a source of insight, guiding future connections with greater awareness and presence. The Buddha taught that grief, like all forms of suffering, is neither permanent nor absolute. It is a temporary state conditioned by attachment, expectation, and desire. Recognizing this impermanence does not diminish the depth of sorrow. It contextualizes it. Grief exists within the flow of life, and it moves through patterns of arising and passing away. Awareness of impermanence reduces identification with pain, allowing the heart to remain open even in sorrow. Practical practices for navigating grief include daily mindfulness, conscious breathing, journaling, and meditation. Begin by acknowledging the pain fully. I feel sorrow. This is my grief. Observe sensations, thoughts, and emotions without judgment. Focus on the breath to anchor presence, allowing space for emotion without being overwhelmed. Journaling helps articulate the layers of grief and trace patterns of attachment. Meditation cultivates clarity and resilience, reducing the power of suffering to dominate the mind. Rituals also support emotional integration. Lighting a candle in remembrance, visiting meaningful places, or engaging in acts of service and honor of what has been lost can transform grief into purposeful action. These rituals create continuity between memory and ongoing life, allowing love and loss to coexist. A story illustrates the transformative power of mindfulness in grief. A woman lost her partner unexpectedly. Initially consumed by despair, sleeplessness, and anguish, she began a daily practice of mindfulness and compassion. Each morning, she observed sensations in her body, acknowledged painful thoughts, and practiced loving kindness toward herself and her lost partner. Over months, grief remained, but its intensity decreased. She was able to recall memories without overwhelming pain, integrate lessons from the relationship, and find renewed engagement with life. Community and social support are also essential. Grief can isolate, but sharing experiences with trusted friends, family, or support groups fosters connection. Hearing others' stories of loss normalizes suffering, reduces isolation, and cultivates empathy. Communal acknowledgement of grief validates emotional experience and strengthens resilience. Visualization exercises can enhance the mind's ability to process loss. Imagine grief as a stormy sea. Waves rise, crash, and fall. Observing the sea from a distance, rather than swimming within it, allows perspective. Mindfulness, breath, and reflection act as stabilizing anchors, helping the mind remain steady while emotions move through. Over time, the sea calms, waves become manageable, and clarity emerges. Self-compassion remains central. Grief can evoke self-blame. I should have acted differently. I could have prevented this. I failed somehow. Observing these thoughts, mindfully and responding with kindness, reduces suffering. Speak gently to yourself. I am grieving. I am human. I allow myself to feel. Repeatedly practicing this shifts the inner dialogue from judgment to nurturing, creating space for healing. Forgiveness supports integration of grief. Many losses involve unresolved conflicts, regrets, or perceived injustices. Forgiveness toward oneself or others does not erase events, but releases emotional charge. It allows reflection and learning rather than repetitive suffering. With forgiveness, grief transforms from imprisonment into a guiding teacher, highlighting insights about impermanence, compassion, and interconnection. Grief intersects with other forms of suffering explored in earlier sections. Stress, anxiety, self-doubt, relational tension, anger, and loss. Each can exacerbate the others, creating compounded emotional burden. Applying mindfulness, compassion, and reflection across these domains strengthens resilience and emotional regulation. The mind learns to hold multiple layers of experience without being overwhelmed, cultivating stability and clarity. Daily practices enhance ongoing healing. Begin with short periods of mindfulness, observing sensations and thoughts without judgment. Engage in reflective journaling to trace emotional patterns and attachment dynamics. Incorporate meditation, visualizations, and rituals honoring memory. Extend compassion and loving kindness to oneself and others affected by loss. Over time, these practices cultivate integration, resilience, and insight. Consider a man mourning the death of a mentor. Initial grief was consuming, with persistent thoughts of regret and longing. Through mindfulness and daily reflection, he observed the impermanence of life, recognized the depth of the bond he shared, and practiced gratitude for lessons learned. Rituals of remembrance, such as revisiting places significant to their shared work, allowed him to honor the mentor while engaging fully in present life. Over time, grief transformed into appreciation and purpose, creating continuity rather than separation. Grief can also inspire meaning and action. The emotional intensity of loss often motivates reflection on values, priorities, and life purpose. Those who navigate grief mindfully often find renewed focus on relationships, personal growth, and contribution to the world. Pain becomes a teacher, guiding toward alignment with what is deeply important. Visualization supports resilience. Imagine grief as a tree in autumn. Leaves fall, representing loss, yet the roots remain deep and strong. The tree adapts, drawing sustenance from what remains, and prepares for renewal in spring. Similarly, grief honors what is lost while allowing life and growth to continue. Awareness, acceptance, and compassionate reflection act as sunlight and water, nourishing the heart and mind. Stories highlight practical transformation. A young adult grieving the loss of a close friend initially felt paralyzed by sorrow. Through mindfulness, journaling, and rituals of remembrance, they began to observe grief without being consumed. Reflection revealed attachment and fear underlying. Sorrow, compassion towards self and friend deepened, and the grieving process became a source of insight and personal growth. Over time, grief existed alongside renewed engagement with life. Grief is a teacher, not a permanent captor. It illuminates love, attachment, impermanence, and interconnectedness. When observed mindfully, responded to with compassion, and reflected upon with clarity, grief transforms from a source of suffering into a pathway of insight and resilience. The next stage of our journey will explore meaning and purpose, the guiding principles that sustain life beyond suffering. Drawing from Buddhist wisdom, we will examine how alignment with values, mindful intention, and inner clarity create a sense of purpose that directs action, nurtures resilience, and fosters enduring fulfillment. Meaning and purpose are the compass of life. Without them, days can feel hollow and achievements empty. People often chase success, possessions, or approval, hoping that these external markers will provide lasting satisfaction. Yet without clarity of purpose, even triumphs feel fleeting. Life may progress, time may pass, but the heart feels unanchored, and the mind restless. Consider someone rising early each morning, commuting through traffic, working tirelessly, yet at night, when all tasks are complete, a sense of emptiness persists. They have done everything right, by societal standards earned. Money, maintained relationships, achieved recognition, but a quiet question lingers. Is this all there is? The absence of purpose amplifies stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction, leaving life's achievements hollow. Or think of a parent focused on providing comfort and security for their children. They invest time, energy, and resources, yet often feel depleted. Without clarity on deeper intentions, why these efforts matter beyond mere obligation, exhaustion and resentment can accumulate. Daily life becomes a series of tasks without direction, and even acts of love feel burdensome. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of intentional living. Purpose is not about grandiose achievements or external recognition. It is about alignment, living in a way that reflects values, nurtures compassion, and contributes to the welfare of self and others. Purpose anchors the mind, guiding choices. With clarity rather than reaction, mindfulness is foundational in cultivating purpose. By observing thoughts, emotions, and actions, we notice patterns that either support or hinder alignment with our deepest values. Mindfulness allows clarity. Where am I acting from intention? Where am I acting from habit, fear, or societal expectation? Awareness of motivation transforms routine action into meaningful practice. Consider the metaphor of a river. A river without a path meanders aimlessly, spreading in multiple directions, sometimes stagnating, sometimes overflowing. A river with a channel flows steadily, nourishing the land, sustaining life along its banks. Purpose functions as the channel for the river of life. It does not restrict flow, but guides energy in alignment with what is meaningful. Compassion informs. Purpose. Actions aligned with kindness and empathy resonate with inner values and create lasting fulfillment. Work, relationships, and personal goals gain depth when motivated by a desire to reduce suffering, cultivate understanding, and contribute positively. Compassion ensures that purpose is not self-centered, avoiding the pitfalls of ambition driven solely by ego. Reflection deepens alignment. Daily or weekly periods of contemplation allow recognition of what truly matters. Questions such as, what brings genuine joy? What actions benefit myself and others? How can I use my abilities responsibly? Reveal priorities. Reflection illuminates discrepancies between habitual activity and meaningful action, offering guidance to recalibrate life toward authentic purpose. Practical practices include mindful journaling to explore values and intentions, meditation on actions and motivations, setting intentions each morning for meaningful engagement, and reviewing achievements in light of contribution rather than status. These practices gradually orient life around clarity, reducing anxiety, stress, and the sense of purposelessness. Consider an individual volunteering at a community center. At first, the motivation may be vague, perhaps guilt, societal expectation, or obligation. Through mindfulness and reflection, they recognize the genuine joy derived from supporting others, the connection it fosters, and the alignment with values of compassion and service. What was initially routine becomes purposeful, enriching both giver and receiver. Purpose also intersects with resilience. Life is unpredictable. Loss, failure, and disappointment are inevitable. Without purpose, setbacks feel devastating, and the mind can be consumed by despair or anger. With purpose, challenges are contextualized. Obstacles become opportunities to act in alignment with values. Failures become lessons, and suffering gains meaning as a teacher rather than an oppressor. Visualization enhances clarity of purpose. Imagine life as a tree. Each branch represents potential actions, decisions, and paths. Some branches bear fruit, others are barren. Mindfulness, reflection, and compassion function as sunlight, water, and care, guiding growth toward branches. Aligned with meaning, the tree adapts, responds to environmental conditions, and continues to flourish despite storms or pruning. Stories illustrate the transformative power of purpose. A young professional, previously overwhelmed by routine work, began daily reflection on values and intentions. Each morning, they identified one action that aligned with their sense of contribution supporting. A colleague, assisting a client sincerely, or mentoring a junior staff member. Over time, work shifted from mechanical obligation to meaningful engagement. Satisfaction increased, anxiety decreased, and resilience strengthened. Similarly, a retiree experiencing emptiness after leaving the workforce found purpose through mindfulness and compassion. They engaged in volunteering, guided by the intention to share knowledge and support others. Each action resonated with values, creating fulfillment and a sense of connection. The sense of meaning anchored life, reducing isolation and emotional turbulence. Purpose is not static. It evolves as life circumstances change. Mindfulness ensures ongoing alignment, reflecting shifts in values, abilities, and relationships. Awareness of impermanence, another core Buddhist principle, reinforces flexibility. What matters at one stage may evolve. Purpose requires continual reflection and adjustment. Gratitude enhances the experience of meaning, recognizing the opportunities. Support and capacities already present nurtures appreciation. Gratitude illuminates resources that facilitate purpose and sustains motivation even amidst challenges. It balances action with recognition of what is already available. Community enriches purpose. Sharing intentions, collaborating toward common goals, and engaging with others in meaningful work amplifies fulfillment. Interconnectedness, a central Buddhist insight, reveals that individual purpose resonates within the broader fabric of life. Actions aligned with compassion, awareness, and service multiply benefits beyond the self. Daily integration is essential. Begin by identifying small actions each day aligned with values. Pause to observe motivation, noting whether it arises from fear, obligation, or compassion. Adjust actions accordingly. Over time, habitual alignment strengthens, making purpose a lived experience rather than an abstract concept. Visualization of impact reinforces commitment. Imagine the ripple effect of purposeful action. A single act of kindness, guided by clarity and intention, spreads outward, influencing multiple lives. This awareness fosters responsibility, accountability, and motivation to act with care and insight. Stories from everyday life reinforce these teachings. A teacher feeling disconnected from students began intentional reflection. How can I facilitate? learning, support growth, and inspire curiosity, each interaction became a practice of purpose. The teacher observed impact, adjusted methods, and cultivated connection. Job satisfaction improved, student engagement increased, and personal fulfillment grew. Purpose transformed routine work into meaningful practice. Purpose also mitigates suffering from previous challenges. Stress is tempered by the clarity of why action matters. Financial concerns are contextualized within priorities and values. Relationships are nurtured by intentional engagement rather than reaction. Anxiety and self-doubt diminish when action aligns with understanding and contribution. Anger softens when guided by mindful discernment and ethical intention. Grief becomes a source of insight into what is truly valuable. Practical exercises for cultivating purpose. Morning intention setting. Identify one meaningful action aligned with values. Mindful reflection. At day's end, review actions and observe alignment with purpose. Journaling. Explore values, motivations, and evolving priorities. Compassionate service. Engage in acts benefiting others. Reinforcing interconnectedness. Visualization. Imagine the ripple effects of purposeful action, fostering motivation and clarity. Purpose, like mindfulness and compassion, is both anchor and compass. It orients life amid uncertainty, loss, and challenge. It transforms routine, adversity, and even suffering into a context for meaningful engagement. Living with purpose does not eliminate difficulty, but it empowers choice, resilience, and fulfillment. Stories illuminate the transformation. A volunteer, initially motivated by obligation, discovered joy and connection through reflection on intent and alignment with values. A retiree, previously adrift, found engagement and contribution, deepening fulfillment. A professional overwhelmed by routine realized meaningful impact by identifying small intentional actions. In each case, purpose shifted experience from emptiness to engagement, from reactivity to meaning, and purpose are deeply personal, yet universally accessible. Mindfulness, reflection, compassion, and action serve as guides. They reveal alignment, illuminate intention, and foster engagement that sustains life beyond mere survival or achievement. Purpose integrates lessons from stress, money, relationships, anxiety, self-doubt, anger, and grief, providing coherence, direction, and resilience. The next stage of our journey will explore the theme of connection to self, to others, and to life itself. Connection deepens purpose, anchors mindfulness, and enhances compassion, weaving the practices learned thus far into a cohesive path toward freedom, fulfillment, and peace. Living with purpose requires continual attention and reflection. Life is dynamic, ever-changing, and filled with unexpected events. Without mindful awareness, it is easy to drift, reacting to circumstances rather than acting intentionally. Purpose functions as an internal compass, guiding choices and actions in alignment with values. Even amid chaos and uncertainty, consider a professional navigating a high-pressure work environment. Deadlines loom, clients demand attention, and expectations multiply. Without clarity of purpose, daily tasks become stressful obligations. Every email, meeting, or decision feels heavy, amplifying anxiety and self-doubt. With a clear sense of purpose, the same environment transforms. Tasks are approached with focus and intention, each action aligned with broader goals and values. Stress remains, but becomes manageable, contextualized within a meaningful framework. Purpose is intimately connected to values. Identifying what matters most: compassion, integrity, creativity, service, or connection provides direction. Values act as anchors, preventing life from being driven solely by external pressures, social expectations, or fleeting desires. Alignment between action and values reduces inner conflict, enhances satisfaction, and cultivates resilience. Mindfulness deepens the alignment of purpose and values. Observe motivations behind actions. Are they rooted in fear, obligation, or external validation? Or do they reflect genuine desire to contribute, to learn, or to alleviate suffering? Awareness of underlying intent allows recalibration of effort, ensuring that daily actions reinforce purpose rather than undermine it. Visualization reinforces clarity. Imagine a lighthouse standing tall against a stormy sea. The lighthouse represents purpose. The storm represents life's challenges, distractions, and uncertainties. Observing the lighthouse provides direction and stability, guiding navigation despite turbulent conditions. Mindfulness, reflection, and intentional action anchor attention to the lighthouse, ensuring choices are guided by enduring principles rather than reactive impulses. Compassion amplifies purpose. Purpose rooted in kindness, empathy, and understanding nurtures both self and others. Actions become meaningful, not simply through achievement, but through positive impact on life, whether alleviating suffering, offering guidance, or fostering connection. Compassion ensures that purpose remains grounded in ethical and human-centered priorities, avoiding ego-driven or destructive ambitions. Reflection practices deepen understanding of purpose. Regular contemplation allows examination of alignment between action, values, and desired impact. Questions such as, does this choice honor my principles? Or, does this action contribute to the welfare of others? Help refine focus and intention. Reflection uncovers areas where habits, societal pressures, or fear have led away from authentic purpose, providing an opportunity for realignment. Consider a teacher who initially feels overwhelmed by administrative tasks, tests, and classroom management. Through reflection, they identify their core values, nurturing curiosity, fostering understanding, and supporting growth. By intentionally prioritizing actions aligned with these values, mundane responsibilities transform into purposeful practice. The teacher's engagement deepens, students benefit, and personal fulfillment increases. Purpose provides resilience in the face of adversity. Life inevitably includes challenges, loss, failure, disappointment, and uncertainty. Without purpose, setbacks may feel catastrophic, overwhelming the mind and heart. With purpose, difficulties are contextualized. Obstacles become opportunities to practice resilience, to exercise creativity, or to act in alignment with values. Purpose turns suffering into a teacher, offering insight and growth rather than despair. Practical exercises for cultivating purpose include daily intention setting. Each morning, identify one action that aligns with personal values and contributes meaningfully. Mindful reflection. At the end of each day, review actions and assess alignment with purpose. Recognize successes and areas for recalibration. Journaling. Explore values, motivations, and evolving priorities, noting patterns and insights over time. Acts of service. Engage intentionally in actions that benefit others, strengthening connection. And ethical alignment. Visualization. Regularly envision life flowing in alignment with values, reinforcing clarity and direction. Meaningful action strengthens emotional well-being. When life is guided by purpose, stress and anxiety decrease, confidence and self-efficacy increase, and relationships gain depth. Purpose acts as a stabilizing force, allowing engagement with life's challenges from a place of clarity rather than reaction. Consider an individual volunteering at a local community organization. Initially motivated by obligation, they gradually cultivate awareness of their intentions, reflect on values, and observe impact. Each action resonates with purpose, creating fulfillment and reinforcing motivation. The work, once routine, becomes a source of meaning, connection, and personal growth. Purpose also fosters long-term resilience. Life may shift dramatically. Health declines, relationships change, careers end. Purpose provides a framework for adaptation. By anchoring to values, individuals navigate transitions with clarity, maintaining integrity and direction despite external uncertainty. Purpose creates continuity across life stages, sustaining engagement, motivation, and well-being. Visualization and metaphor enhance understanding. Life is like a garden. Each choice, each action is a seed planted. Purpose ensures that seeds align with desired growth, compassion, understanding, creativity, or contribution. Mindfulness nurtures growth, compassion fertilizes it, and reflection prunes distractions or harmful patterns. Over time, the garden flourishes, representing a life aligned with meaningful values. Stories illustrate the transformative power of purpose. A retired professional, initially adrift after decades of work, applied mindfulness and reflection to identify core values: mentorship, learning, and service. Engaging in volunteer work and supporting local initiatives, each action aligned with purpose. Life regained direction, relationships deepened, and emotional well-being increased. Purpose transformed a period of uncertainty into opportunity and fulfillment. Similarly, an entrepreneur experiencing burnout found clarity by reconnecting with purpose. Rather than focusing solely on profit or recognition, they aligned business strategies with values of ethical service and positive impact. Mindful decision-making, reflection on motivations, and acts of service transformed the work experience. Engagement, satisfaction, and resilience improved as daily actions reflected deeper purpose. Purpose is dynamic, not static. Life circumstances, personal growth, and external changes continually reshape meaning. Mindfulness allows continual awareness of alignment between action and values. Reflection ensures recalibration when priorities evolve. Purpose is not a fixed endpoint. It is an ongoing process of living consciously, ethically, and compassionately. Gratitude reinforces purpose. Recognizing the resources, relationships, and opportunities available cultivates appreciation and sustains motivation. Awareness of existing support, skills, and connections strengthens alignment with values and enhances confidence in pursuing meaningful action. Gratitude integrates experience, balancing reflection on losses or challenges with acknowledgement of what is present and available. Community magnifies purpose. Shared engagement in meaningful activities strengthens connection, fosters collaboration, and reinforces alignment with ethical and compassionate goals. Interdependence, central to Buddhist insight, highlights that individual purpose resonates within a broader social and ecological network. Actions aligned with compassion, mindfulness, and service extend beyond the self, creating ripple effects in the world. Daily integration of purpose is essential. Begin by identifying intentional actions aligned with values each day. Pause to observe motivation and adjust when necessary. Reflect on alignment in the evening. Engage in acts that benefit others. Cultivate gratitude and visualize the broader impact. Over time, habitual alignment reinforces clarity, resilience, and fulfillment, allowing life to unfold with coherence and meaning. Purpose connects with every aspect of life. Explored previously, stress. Purpose provides perspective, transforming challenges into manageable, meaningful opportunities. Money. Purpose guides the use of resources, aligning financial decisions with values and contribution. Relationships. Purpose informs how one engages, fosters connection, and prioritizes meaningful interactions. Anxiety. Purpose contextualizes worries, reducing rumination and enhancing focus on constructive action. Self-doubt. Purpose reinforces confidence, highlighting contribution and alignment over comparison or criticism. Anger. Purpose transforms reactive impulses into intentional, ethical responses. Grief. Purpose allows sorrow to inform priorities, values, and future action, integrating loss into the broader life narrative. By cultivating purpose, the mind and heart gain coherence. Life becomes a series of intentional actions rather than reactive patterns. Challenges remain, but they are met with clarity, resilience, and alignment. Emotional well-being, relational depth, and personal fulfillment emerge naturally from sustained practice. Stories illuminate the ongoing journey. A teacher, initially disheartened by bureaucratic constraints, identified the core value of fostering curiosity in students. Each lesson, conversation, and project was approached intentionally, guided by this purpose. Satisfaction returned, classroom engagement improved, and personal fulfillment increased. Purpose transformed ordinary work into meaningful practice. Community organizer facing systemic challenges applied the same principles. By aligning daily action with broader values of equity, justice, and compassion, obstacles became opportunities for mindful intervention. Emotional turbulence decreased, confidence and clarity increased, and positive impact expanded. Purpose-anchored life amid uncertainty and complexity. Purpose is accessible to everyone. It does not require wealth, fame, or extraordinary circumstances. It begins with awareness, reflection, and intentional action. It deepens through practice, mindfulness, and alignment with values. It integrates lessons from suffering, challenges, and joy, creating coherence and direction. The next stage of our journey will explore connection and interdependence. The recognition that meaning and purpose are deeply intertwined with relationships, community, and the broader web of life. Connection strengthens purpose, nurtures resilience, and amplifies compassion, completing the integration of wisdom, practice, and lived experience. Connection is the invisible thread that weaves life together. It underpins relationships, community, and even the relationship we hold with ourselves. Humans are inherently relational beings. From birth, survival depends on caregivers, and throughout life, emotional, social, and practical needs intertwine with the lives of others. Despite the modern emphasis on independence, no one exists in isolation. Our well-being, purpose, and even identity are deeply shaped by the networks of connection we inhabit. Consider the family struggling to support one another. Each member faces personal challenges, work stress, financial pressure, emotional difficulties, but the bonds they share provide support, comfort, and shared resilience. A parent may soothe a child's fear, a sibling may offer encouragement, and a grandparent may provide perspective. Connection creates safety, reduces anxiety, and sustains hope. Or think of a workplace team collaborating on a complex project. Each individual brings unique skills, experience, and perspective. Success depends on mutual trust, communication, and respect. Misunderstanding or lack of empathy can fracture relationships, while mindful engagement fosters collaboration, efficiency, and satisfaction. Connection in this context is not only functional, it shapes motivation, resilience, and emotional well-being. Connection also extends to community and society. Acts of kindness, civic engagement, and collective responsibility strengthen social cohesion. Observing the impact of these actions reinforces purpose, enhances empathy, and nurtures a sense of belonging. Interdependence reminds us that our choices ripple outward, affecting others in ways often unseen. Buddhist teachings emphasize interdependence as a fundamental principle. The concept of dependent origination teaches that all phenomena arise in relation to conditions and causes. No individual exists independently. Every thought, action, and decision interacts with the web of life, shaping and being shaped by others. Recognizing interdependence fosters humility, reduces ego, and cultivates compassion. Mindfulness is essential in cultivating connection. Awareness of our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors allows us to observe how they affect others. By noticing patterns of reactivity, judgment, or attachment, we gain the ability to respond skillfully rather than impulsively. Mindful presence enhances communication, nurtures empathy, and strengthens relational bonds. Consider a friend experiencing conflict. Immediate reactions may be defensive or critical, escalating tension. Mindful observation of emotional responses tightens muscles. Racing thoughts, rising irritation creates space. This space allows choice. Respond with understanding, curiosity, and kindness rather than reactive judgment. The quality of connection transforms, fostering trust, and intimacy. Compassion amplifies connection. When we recognize the struggles, fears, and needs of others, we respond with empathy and support. Compassionate action strengthens bonds, alleviates suffering, and creates mutual benefit. It also nurtures self-compassion as extending kindness. Outward reinforces internal balance and reduces guilt, resentment, and isolation. Visualization supports relational awareness. Imagine life as a web, each person a node connected by threads of influence, care, and shared experience. Each action, kindness, attention, or understanding tugs gently on these threads, reinforcing the network. Awareness of interconnection fosters responsibility, ethical action, and relational harmony. Stories illuminate these principles. A teacher noticed a student withdrawing in class. Initially frustrated by perceived disinterest, the teacher paused, observed emotional reactions, and reflected on possible causes. Through mindfulness and compassion, the teacher reached out with empathy. Connection strengthened, the student engaged more fully, and the teacher experienced satisfaction and purpose. Awareness and intentional engagement transformed a challenging interaction into relational growth. Connection also deepens purpose. Meaningful action is amplified when it considers the well-being of others. Acts aligned with values, whether volunteering, mentoring, or offering emotional support, resonate through the network of relationships. Purpose becomes inseparable from connection. The well-being of self and others interweave. Consider a volunteer working at a local shelter. Initially motivated by obligation or routine, reflection on values and impact reveal deeper meaning. Each interaction offering food, listening attentively, providing guidance reinforced purpose. Awareness of the interconnected network of needs and responses amplified fulfillment. The volunteer experienced satisfaction and resilience, grounded in both purpose and connection. Gratitude strengthens connection. Recognizing the support, kindness, and presence of others nurtures appreciation. Acknowledging contributions, whether large or small, reinforces relational bonds. Gratitude expands perspective, shifting focus from self-centered concerns to the shared nature of existence. It fosters emotional resilience, deepens trust, and encourages reciprocal care. Interdependence also mitigates suffering. Challenges stress. Anxiety, grief, anger, or self-doubt are more navigable when supported by relationships. Connection provides emotional grounding, practical assistance, and perspective. Supportive bonds buffer the impact of hardship, enhance coping, and cultivate stability. Isolation, by contrast, magnifies suffering, emphasizing the crucial role of relational awareness. Mindful communication is central to sustaining connection. Listening attentively without interrupting or preparing a response fosters understanding. Speaking with clarity and kindness conveys respect and empathy. Even in disagreement, mindful engagement preserves relational integrity, strengthens trust, and models constructive behavior. Visualization enhances empathy. Imagine each person's perspective as a landscape. Each landscape contains fears, joys, hopes, and pain. Observing these landscapes cultivates curiosity, reduces judgment, and deepens understanding. Empathy bridges differences, fostering relational harmony and mutual growth. Stories reinforce relational insight. A colleague habitually criticized team members, creating tension. By practicing mindfulness, observing triggers, and extending compassion, the individual gradually altered communication patterns. Tension decreased, collaboration improved, and overall satisfaction increased. Awareness of interdependence transformed. Personal behavior, positively affecting the broader network. Connection extends beyond immediate relationships. Awareness of community, environment, and global interdependence nurtures ethical responsibility. Recognizing that individual actions impact larger systems encourage mindfulness in consumption, communication, and contribution. Ethical choices grounded in relational awareness reinforce personal integrity and societal benefit. Practical exercises to cultivate connection include mindful listening during interactions. Focus fully on the other person, observing emotions and intentions. Reflection on impact. Consider how actions affect self, others, and the broader community. Compassion practice. Extend empathy and kindness intentionally, even to those challenging. To engage with gratitude journaling. Record ways in which others support, nurture, or inspire you. Visualization. Imagine the web of interconnection. Noting how your actions influence the network. Connection reinforces emotional balance. Awareness of interdependence reduces ego-driven reactivity, softens anger, and mitigates isolation. Compassion strengthens relational bonds, deepens meaning, and enhances resilience. Purpose becomes tangible when aligned with relational awareness, creating coherent, integrated life practice. Consider a family navigating stress due to financial hardship. Each member experiences anxiety and tension. Through mindful communication, recognition of interdependence, and compassionate action, conflicts decrease, support increases, and shared resilience strengthens. Connection amplifies the efficacy of coping strategies and reinforces emotional stability. Similarly, a team in a high-stakes work environment leverages interdependence. Acknowledging individual strengths, respecting contributions, and cultivating empathy fosters collaboration and productivity. Mindfulness in communication prevents reactive conflict. Gratitude for others' efforts enhances cohesion. Purpose and connection merge, creating both efficiency and satisfaction. Interdependence also shapes response to societal challenges. Volunteering, advocacy, and community engagement extend personal values into collective action. Awareness of systemic impact fosters ethical responsibility and reinforces purpose. Connection to larger networks amplifies fulfillment, resilience, and societal well-being. Visualization of relational ripples reinforces perspective. Imagine dropping a stone into a pond. The ripples extend outward, touching distant points. Every act, kindness, insight, ethical action generates impact beyond immediate perception. Awareness of this influence cultivates care, responsibility, and intentional engagement. Stories illuminate the interplay of connection and purpose. A mentor guiding a mentee initially focused on skill development. By reflecting on relational impact, the mentor adjusted approach, emphasizing empathy, encouragement, and modeling resilience. The mentee's growth accelerated, relational trust deepened, and both experienced fulfillment. Purpose and connection intertwined, magnifying positive outcomes. Connection mitigates suffering from previous challenges. Stress is softened through support. Anxiety diminishes through relational grounding. Grief finds context and meaning through shared acknowledgement. Self-doubt is alleviated through encouragement. Anger is tempered through empathy and understanding. Interdependence transforms individual experience into a networked, supported, and resilient existence. Purpose and connection are mutually reinforcing. Intentional action grounded in values enhances relational bonds, while awareness of interdependence informs ethical and compassionate action. Each strengthens the other, creating coherent, resilient engagement with life. Practical integration of connection includes daily mindfulness in relationships, reflection on actions' impact, intentional expression of gratitude, compassionate communication, and visualization of interdependence. Repeated practice deepens understanding, nurtures emotional resilience, and strengthens both purpose and fulfillment. Stories highlight the practical effect of these principles. A volunteer experiencing burnout re-engaged by reflecting on relational impact, connecting efforts to the well-being of others. Emotional exhaustion decreased, satisfaction increased, and relational bonds strengthened. Mindfulness, compassion, and awareness of interdependence integrated personal effort into meaningful engagement. Connection extends inward as well. Awareness of the self, recognition of emotional states, and compassionate self-reflection are integral. Self-connection informs relational engagement. Mindfulness, reflection, and self-compassion cultivate stability, enabling sustainable interaction with others and meaningful contribution to collective well-being. Impermanence and deliberate action applied to self, others, and the broader world create a web of interconnection that supports meaning, purpose, and resilience. Connection is not only relational, it is the ground upon which every aspect of life gains coherence and depth. Recognizing interdependence transforms individual action into collective significance, making life both richer and more manageable. Consider a community recovering from a natural disaster. Individuals are overwhelmed with loss, uncertainty, and fear. Alone, grief, anxiety, and despair can feel insurmountable. Yet as people come together, sharing resources, offering support, and collaborating in rebuilding, suffering is alleviated and hope emerges. Connection transforms isolation into shared strength. Each person's contribution resonates across the network, demonstrating the power of interdependence and collective action. Mindful engagement is crucial in nurturing connection. Each interaction, whether with family, friends, colleagues, or strangers, is an opportunity to cultivate empathy, understanding, and support. Observing responses before acting, listening attentively, and communicating with clarity and compassion strengthens relational bonds and reinforces emotional stability. Mindfulness prevents habitual reactions, anger, judgment, defensiveness from undermining connection. Visualization further enhances relational awareness. Imagine the world as a vast network of lights, each representing a person. When one light shines with awareness, kindness, and compassion, it brightens surrounding lights. When attention, care, and presence are extended to others, their brightness is enhanced, creating a luminous network. Awareness of interconnection inspires ethical, mindful, and compassionate action, reinforcing both individual and collective well-being. Stories illustrate these principles. A hospital nurse, initially overwhelmed by stress and responsibility, began observing interactions mindfully. Each patient encounter was approached with focused attention and empathy. Gratitude was expressed to colleagues, support acknowledged, and mindfulness practices integrated throughout the day. The result: relationships strengthened, emotional resilience increased, and the nurse's sense of purpose deepened. Connection transformed routine work into meaningful engagement. Connection is also a powerful antidote to suffering. Stress, anxiety, grief, self-doubt, and anger are mitigated through relational support. Observing interdependence reduces isolation and promotes perspective. Compassion toward others and oneself reduces reactivity and cultivates patience. Meaning and purpose become tangible when actions are aligned with awareness of relational impact. Interdependence fosters both stability and growth. Practical exercises to strengthen connection and interdependence include daily relational reflection. At the end of each day, identify one way you positively impacted someone's life or received. Support. Reflect on the mutual benefit and interconnectedness. Mindful listening practice. In every conversation, focus fully on the other person, noticing verbal and nonverbal cues, emotions, and intentions. Pause before responding, allowing space for reflection and empathy. Compassion extension. Intentionally consider someone with whom you have tension or conflict. Reflect on their humanity, circumstances, and struggles. Send thoughts of understanding and goodwill. Visualization of interconnection. Picture your relationships and community as a web. Observe how actions, words, and choices influence and resonate through the network. Gratitude journaling for relationships. Record daily instances of support, kindness, or guidance received. Acknowledge and appreciate the presence of others, reinforcing connection and relational stability. Connection also strengthens purpose. Awareness of interdependence informs ethical choices, guiding actions in alignment with personal values and broader welfare. Purpose is amplified when considered within relational networks. Actions aligned with compassion and mindfulness generate positive outcomes, reinforcing motivation and satisfaction. Consider a mentor working with at-risk youth. By cultivating connection, understanding individual challenges, and aligning guidance with both personal values and relational needs, the mentor creates meaningful impact. Each success is amplified through the network, demonstrating how awareness of interdependence enhances purpose, engagement, and resilience. Connection supports resilience across life's challenges. Stress, financial concerns, relational difficulties, and emotional struggles are all mitigated when awareness of interdependence is integrated into daily life. Supportive relationships, communal engagement, and mindful attention foster stability, emotional balance, and adaptability. Interdependence transforms adversity into shared opportunity for growth and insight. Visualization practices reinforce the impact of connection. Picture yourself dropping a pebble into a pond. Ripples radiate outward, touching distant shores. Every act of kindness, understanding, or support generates waves of influence, impacting individuals and communities. Awareness of these effects motivates intentional action, cultivating ethical, mindful, and compassionate engagement. Stories highlight the transformative potential of connection. A social worker navigating burnout found renewed energy by reflecting on relational impact. Mindful attention to interactions, gratitude for collaboration, and visualization of positive influence strengthened purpose and resilience. Connection amplified meaning, reduced stress, and fostered satisfaction. Awareness of interdependence turned personal effort into collective benefit. Connection also requires attention to self. Self-awareness, self-compassion, and reflection are foundational for sustaining relational engagement. Emotional stability, ethical action, and effective communication arise from internal balance. Mindfulness, reflection, and deliberate practice maintain alignment between inner state and outward action, reinforcing both personal well-being and relational health. Interdependence is ethical in nature. Recognizing relational influence fosters responsibility, accountability, and intentional engagement. Actions are considered not only for personal gain, but for collective welfare. Awareness of interconnection cultivates generosity, care, and service, integrating personal growth with societal benefit. Practical integration involves daily observation of relational dynamics, reflection on impact, and deliberate ethical action. Mindful attention to communication, active listening, and compassionate engagement strengthen bonds, and reinforce the ripple effect of positive influence. Awareness of interdependence supports sustainable practice of meaning, purpose, and ethical engagement. Connection is central to healing from previous suffering. Stress is softened through support networks. Anxiety diminishes when guided by relational grounding. Grief is contextualized and integrated through communal acknowledgement. Self-doubt is mitigated by encouragement, mentoring, and shared experience. Anger is tempered through understanding and empathy. Interdependence transforms individual vulnerability into shared resilience. Consider a family recovering from long-term conflict. Mindful observation, compassionate communication, and recognition of interdependence reduce tension and strengthen trust. Each member's contributions are acknowledged, fostering relational cohesion. Emotional regulation improves, purpose is reinforced, and collective resilience emerges. Connection amplifies recovery, supporting both individual and family growth. Extends to community, society, and environment. Awareness of systemic interdependence encourages ethical behavior, social responsibility, and contribution to collective well-being. Actions guided by mindfulness, compassion, and reflection generate positive ripple effects. Awareness of these broader networks reinforces personal engagement, ethical clarity, and relational responsibility. Stories from real-world practice illustrate impact. A city planner addressing urban inequities applied mindfulness and awareness of interdependence. Decisions considered the needs of diverse communities, ethical outcomes, and long-term sustainability. Each action reflected relational awareness, enhancing both personal fulfillment and societal benefit. Connection transformed complex challenges into meaningful ethical engagement. Connection is both relational and systemic. Awareness of self, relationships, community, and environment forms an integrated web of interdependence. Mindfulness, reflection, compassion, and deliberate action ensure coherence across personal, relational, and societal domains. Emotional well-being, resilience, purpose, and meaning are reinforced through this holistic awareness. Gratitude strengthens connection at all levels. Recognizing support, opportunities, and positive impact of others nurtures appreciation and relational stability. Gratitude reinforces mindfulness, compassion, and ethical awareness, creating a foundation for sustainable engagement with life, relationships, and the broader world. Daily practices reinforce connection and interdependence. Mindful observation of personal, relational, and communal actions. Reflection on alignment of behavior with values and ethical responsibility. Compassionate engagement in interactions, especially challenging ones. Visualization of relational networks and ripple effects of action. Gratitude practice recognizing support, influence, and interdependence. Connection enhances purpose. Awareness of interdependence informs ethical decision-making, strengthens relational engagement, and amplifies impact. Mindfulness, compassion, and reflection integrate personal growth with societal well-being. Purpose becomes lived experience, reinforced by understanding of relational dynamics and collective impact. Stories highlight the transformative effect. A mentor supporting vulnerable youth initially struggled with burnout. Mindful attention to interactions, reflection on impact, and visualization of relational influence renewed engagement and purpose. Emotional resilience increased, connection strengthened, and satisfaction grew. Awareness of interdependence integrated personal effort into broader meaningful action. Connection also nurtures the self. Self-awareness, self-compassion, and mindfulness anchor emotional stability. Internal balance enables sustained ethical engagement with others. Practices such as reflective journaling, meditation, and compassionate self-observation strengthen the foundation from which relational connection can flourish, not as Part 9 concludes. A pattern emerges clearly: stress, money, relationships, anxiety. Self-doubt, anger, grief, purpose, and connection are interwoven. The principles of mindfulness, awareness, compassion, reflection, impermanence, and deliberate action apply universally across life's challenges. Connection and interdependence amplify meaning, purpose, and resilience, integrating the insights. And practices explored throughout the journey. Integration is the final stage of any meaningful journey. After experiencing and understanding stress, money concerns, relationships, anxiety, self-doubt, anger, grief, purpose, and connection, the mind and heart may feel scattered, overwhelmed, or fragmented. Integration is the deliberate process of weaving together insights, practices, and experiences into a coherent whole. It allows lessons to become embodied, not merely conceptual, and transforms understanding into daily living. Consider a person who has navigated multiple challenges over the years: stressful work environments, financial uncertainty, turbulent relationships, bouts of anxiety, lingering self-doubt, moments of anger, and periods of grief have left marks on the heart. Each challenge, when approached without awareness, has contributed to fragmentation, a scattered mind, reactive patterns, and emotional turbulence. Yet through integration, these experiences are synthesized. The mind recognizes patterns, the heart cultivates balance, and life becomes a unified practice rather than a series of reactive events. Integration begins with mindfulness. Mindfulness is the foundation upon which all other practices rest. By observing thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations without judgment, we become aware of patterns that previously operated unconsciously. Awareness illuminates the interplay of stress, anxiety, self-doubt, and other emotions, revealing their roots in attachment, craving, and aversion. Through consistent mindfulness, the mind transitions from reactivity to response, from chaos to clarity. Consider the metaphor of a tapestry. Each thread represents an experience, an emotion, or a practice. Alone, threads may seem insignificant or messy, but when woven together with intention, they create a coherent, intricate, and beautiful design. Integration is the weaving process, taking each insight, each lesson, and each experience and embedding it into a broader pattern of awareness, compassion, and wisdom. Reflection deepens integration. Regular periods of introspection allow us to connect past experiences with present understanding. Questions such as, "What have I learned from this challenge?" Or, "How does this experience inform my choices moving forward?" illuminate patterns of thought, behavior, and emotion. Reflection transforms isolated insights into a cohesive framework that guides action and perception. Compassion is central to transformation. Integration is not about perfection or erasing past mistakes. It is about acknowledging suffering, learning from experience, and responding with understanding. Compassion toward oneself allows acceptance of imperfections, failures, and limitations. Compassion toward others recognizes the shared nature of suffering, enhancing connection and reducing isolation. Visualization enhances integration. Imagine a river flowing from mountain to sea. Tributaries of experience, challenge, and insight converge, creating a vast, interconnected current. Each tributary contributes to the strength, depth, and direction of the river. Integration allows all experiences, painful, joyful, mundane, or transformative, to flow into a coherent current, moving life forward with clarity, purpose, and resilience. Practical exercises support integration. Daily mindfulness practice. Observe thoughts, emotions, and sensations. Notice patterns of reactivity and attachment. Reflective journaling. Connect experiences across domains: stress, relationships, grief, self-doubt, and purpose. Identify lessons, patterns, and areas of growth. Compassion exercises. Practice self-compassion and extend loving kindness to others. Reflect on shared human experience and interdependence. Visualization of integration. Envision life as a river or tapestry, each experience contributing to a coherent, flowing whole. Action alignment. Identify daily actions that reflect insights gained, ensuring that behavior embodies awareness, compassion, and purpose. Stories illustrate the power of integration. A professional who had struggled with anxiety, self-doubt, and relational tension began daily mindfulness and reflection practices. By observing habitual reactions, journaling insights, and extending compassion to self and colleagues, the individual noticed patterns and triggers. Over time, emotional reactivity decreased, confidence grew, and relationships strengthened. Actions were guided by awareness and values, not impulse or fear. Life became coherent rather than fragmented, and transformation was embodied rather than conceptual. Integration requires attention to impermanence. Experiences, emotions, and circumstances are transient. Observing impermanence allows flexibility in the application of insights and practices. When life shifts, the integrated mind adapts, applying awareness, compassion, and intentional action to new challenges without being overwhelmed. This dynamic integration prevents rigidity, encourages resilience, and fosters sustained peace. Consider grief. Initially, sorrow may dominate, isolating the heart and mind. Through mindfulness, reflection, compassion, and connection, grief is integrated. It becomes a source of insight, revealing the depth of love, attachment, and impermanence. The experience of loss is not erased, but absorbed into a broader framework of understanding, guiding future relationships, fostering empathy, and deepening purpose. Integration also transforms anger. Habitual reactivity diminishes as awareness, reflection, and compassion are applied. Anger, once overwhelming, becomes a signal highlighting attachment, expectation, or desire. Observed and understood, anger informs conscious choice, guiding ethical and constructive action. Emotional energy previously expended on conflict is redirected into insight, connection, and purposeful engagement. Self-doubt and inadequacy are similarly transformed. Through integration, recognition of innate capability, resilience, and interdependence reduces habitual insecurity. Daily reflection, gratitude, and deliberate action reinforce self-worth. Confidence emerges not from external validation, but from alignment between insight, practice, and action. The integrated mind navigates challenges with clarity, courage, and poise. Connection and interdependence reach their fullest expression through integration. Awareness of relational networks, community, and the broader web of life informs ethical behavior and purpose. Actions are intentional, compassionate, and effective. Emotional resilience is strengthened as support systems are recognized and leveraged. Integration embeds relational awareness into lived experience, creating coherence across self, others, and environment. Visualization reinforces holistic integration. Imagine a vast web, each thread representing an experience, relationship, or insight. Threads of stress, anxiety, grief, purpose, and connection interweave with mindfulness, compassion, and deliberate action. The web is not static, it shifts with life, accommodates change, and maintains structural integrity. Awareness of this interconnectivity fosters ethical action, emotional stability, and resilience. Stories highlight the transformation that integration enables. A community leader managing stress, conflict, and financial pressure began daily mindfulness, reflection, and compassion practices, recognizing patterns of thought and emotion, observing interdependent effects of actions, and aligning behavior with values, the leader experienced a profound shift. Decisions became clearer, relationships more constructive, and emotional turbulence decreased. Integration converted fragmented experience into coherent, empowered living. Integration also involves aligning purpose with practice. Purpose provides direction. Integration ensures coherence between intention, understanding, and action. Life is approached as an ongoing practice, not a series of disjointed reactions. Mindfulness, reflection, compassion, and ethical awareness unify behavior with values, creating continuity and resilience. Consider a retired professional experiencing emptiness and self-doubt. Through integration, daily mindfulness, reflection on past experiences, compassionate engagement with self and others, and alignment of purpose with action restored coherence. Each activity, whether volunteering, mentoring, or personal study, was intentional, resonating with values and contributing to well-being. Integration transformed uncertainty into meaningful engagement, isolation into connectedness, and doubt into confidence. Gratitude enhances integration. Recognizing past lessons, support from others, and opportunities for growth reinforces coherence. Daily acknowledgement of progress, achievements, and relational impact strengthens alignment between insight and action. Gratitude ensures that integration is not merely cognitive, but deeply embodied, cultivating resilience, purpose, and emotional balance. Integration also requires flexibility. Life circumstances, relationships, and internal states change. Awareness of impermanence allows adjustment of practice, reflection, and action. The integrated mind adapts without losing coherence, maintaining ethical engagement, emotional stability, and alignment with values. Flexibility ensures sustainability, preventing stagnation, rigidity, or overwhelm. Connection between mind and body is essential in integration. Mindful observation of physical sensations, breathing patterns, and somatic responses anchors awareness. In lived experience, integration is not merely intellectual, it is embodied. Body and mind work in concert to support emotional regulation, ethical action, and relational engagement. Practical steps for complete integration: daily mindfulness and reflection. Observe emotions, thoughts, and patterns. Connect insights across areas of life. Compassionate awareness. Apply self-compassion and empathy in all interactions. Alignment of purpose and action. Ensure daily choices reflect values and contribute meaningfully. Visualization and journaling. Track integration of insights, experiences, and relational awareness. Embrace impermanence. Adapt practice and action to changing circumstances without losing coherence. Stories of long-term transformation illustrate the power of integration. Teacher navigating stress, grief, and relational tension applied mindfulness, reflection, and compassion to daily life. By observing reactions, aligning action with purpose, and cultivating connection, emotional reactivity decreased, relationships strengthened, and meaning emerged. Life became coherent, resilient, and fulfilling. Integration transformed suffering into wisdom. Stress is acknowledged, managed, and mitigated. Financial uncertainty is navigated with clarity and ethical intention. Relationships are strengthened through empathy, communication, and awareness. Anxiety becomes a teacher guiding focus and presence. Self-doubt is replaced by confidence, anchored in alignment with values. Anger informs ethical action rather than impulsive reaction. Grief deepens insight into love and impermanence. Purpose becomes tangible, and connection is reinforced. Visualization. Imagine life as a radiant sphere. Each previous challenge, practice, and insight forms a distinct ray of light. Rays intersect, merge, and harmonize, illuminating the sphere from within. Integration ensures Thathy's rays do not scatter or conflict, but converge. Each experience stress, money, relationships, anxiety, self-doubt, anger, grief, purpose. Connection contributes to the illumination of life. Integration harmonizes mind, heart, and action, creating coherence that supports wisdom, resilience, and inner peace. Consider a person who has practiced mindfulness, reflection, and compassion over years, navigating multiple life challenges. Previously, stress overwhelmed, anxiety paralyzed, relationships strained, and grief felt insurmountable. Over time, integration allows each challenge to inform insight rather than dominate the mind. The body, mind, and heart function in concert. Awareness and presence stabilize emotion. Relationships deepen. Purpose becomes lived experience. Action is aligned with values, ethical principles, and compassion. Life flows with greater coherence. Embodied integration requires consistent practice. Daily reflection on experience, meditation, mindful observation, and compassion are not one-time acts, but continuous cultivation. Through repetition, patterns of reactivity are replaced by skillful response. Emotional turbulence is mitigated. Thought becomes a tool rather than a tyrant. Awareness deepens, allowing life to unfold with clarity and intentionality. Visualization strengthens embodiment of integration. Imagine life as a river nourished by multiple streams. Each stream represents a domain of experience: stress, relationships, anxiety, purpose, grief, and connection. Alone, streams may flood or dry unpredictably. When they converge, their flow is steady, powerful, and harmonious. Integration ensures that energy from all domains supports a single, coherent direction. Life, like the river, becomes a continuous movement guided by awareness and intention. Integration fosters emotional resilience. Stress and challenges persist, yet the integrated mind observes without becoming overwhelmed. Anxiety, once reactive, is met with mindfulness and compassion. Self-doubt and inadequacy are reframed through reflection, gratitude, and recognition of interdependence. Anger becomes information guiding ethical action. Grief deepens insight and appreciation for impermanence and connection. Life is experienced fully, with clarity and equilibrium. Stories highlight integration in action. A parent managing career, stress, financial pressures, and family responsibilities apply daily mindfulness, reflection, and compassion. Awareness of interdependence allowed delegation, collaboration, and appreciation of support networks. Integration of purpose-guided decisions. Emotional reactivity decreased. Relationships strengthened. Stress became manageable rather than overwhelming. Life gained coherence and satisfaction. Practical exercises to maintain integration. Daily mindful. Check-in. Observe thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations. Notice patterns across stress, anxiety, anger, and grief. Reflective journaling. Connect daily experiences to values, purpose, and relational awareness. Identify areas of alignment and needed RECAL, IBRATION. Compassion. Practice self-compassion. And extend empathy toward others. Reflect on shared human experience and interdependence. Visualization. Envision life as integrated, where each experience contributes to overall coherence, insight, and purpose. Action alignment. Ensure that decisions and behaviors reflect integrated understanding and values. Adjust choices when misalignment is observed. Integration also deepens ethical awareness. Recognizing interdependence highlights that personal actions have consequences beyond the self. Awareness of relational and societal impact encourages responsibility, ethical engagement, and intentional contribution. Alignment between insight and action promotes coherence between values. Behavior and relationships. Consider a healthcare professional managing high-pressure responsibilities, patient care, and administrative demands. Through integrated practice, mindfulness, reflection, and compassion inform every interaction. Awareness of the broader impact of each choice on patients, colleagues, and self enhances clarity, ethical conduct, and resilience. Integration transforms routine professional activity into purposeful, ethical, and mindful engagement. Connection within integration is multidimensional. Self-awareness stabilizes emotional regulation. Relational awareness enhances empathy and communication. Community awareness fosters ethical and compassionate engagement. Environmental and societal awareness informs responsible action and interdependent thinking. Integration unifies all dimensions, creating a coherent, resilient, and compassionate approach to life. Visualization reinforces this multi-dimensional connection. Imagine a network of threads linking self, family, friends, community, and environment. Each thread vibrates with attention, compassion, and intentional action. Integration ensures harmony, reducing tension, strengthening bonds, and amplifying impact. Awareness of interdependence nurtures both fulfillment and ethical responsibility. Stories of integrated living illustrate practical benefits. A teacher, previously overwhelmed by workload, stress, and interpersonal challenges, practiced daily mindfulness, reflection, and compassion. Observing triggers and patterns, the teacher aligned action with purpose, nurtured connection with students and colleagues, and practiced gratitude. Integration reduced reactivity, strengthened relationships, increased satisfaction, and enhanced professional effectiveness. Life became a coherent practice rather than a reactive struggle. Gratitude reinforces integration. Recognizing support, guidance, and opportunities nurtures appreciation and resilience. Daily acknowledgement of contributions from others, lessons learned, and personal growth strengthens alignment between mind, heart, and action. Gratitude grounds the integrated mind, enhancing awareness, compassion, and ethical engagement. Integration transforms suffering into wisdom. Stress becomes a teacher for focus and resilience. Anxiety highlights patterns of attachment and provides opportunity for mindful engagement. Self-doubt informs reflection, self-compassion, and growth. Anger signals unmet needs, attachment, or expectation, guiding ethical action. Grief illuminates love, impermanence, and relational depth. Purpose becomes a lived experience, supported by awareness of interdependence. Connection amplifies impact and resilience. Stories reinforce integration's transformative power. A community leader managing multiple crises, financial, relational, and emotional applied mindfulness, reflection, and compassionate engagement. Observing personal and relational patterns, aligning action with values, and nurturing interdependent networks transform stress and emotional turbulence into coherent, ethical, and purposeful engagement. Integration created stability, resilience, and fulfillment. Daily practices sustain transformation. Mindful awareness. Observe thoughts, emotions, bodily sensations, and habitual patterns. Reflection. Regularly connect experience with values, purpose, and interdependence. Compassion. Extend understanding and kindness to self and others. Visualization. Imagine integrated life where experiences, challenges, and insights converge into coherence. Ethical alignment. Ensure actions reflect integrated understanding, purpose, and relational awareness. Integration is ongoing. Life continually presents new challenges, opportunities, and experiences. Awareness, mindfulness, and compassion require maintenance. Reflection and recalibration ensure alignment with values, purpose, and ethical responsibility. Integration is not a destination, but a continual, conscious practice, a living embodiment of wisdom and freedom. Consider someone who has navigated decades of professional, personal, and relational challenges. Integration is evident not in perfection, but in coherence. Responses are measured and compassionate. Purpose guides decisions. Awareness informs action, and connection sustains resilience. Emotional turbulence remains, but is observed and managed. The integrated life is both dynamic and stable, flexible yet anchored, responsive yet intentional. Visualization of integration as a radiant sphere illustrates the concept. Each prior lesson stress, management, financial awareness, relational skill, anxiety regulation, self-confidence, anger transformation, grief processing, purpose cultivation, and connection shines as a ray. The rays intersect, harmonize, and illuminate the whole. Integration ensures coherence, resilience, and clarity, forming a unified field of awareness, purpose, and compassionate action. Integration allows life to be lived fully. Joy is experienced without attachment. Sorrow is acknowledged without overwhelm. Challenges are navigated with clarity. Relationships deepen, purpose guides action, and awareness sustains balance. Integration creates freedom. Freedom from habitual reactivity, freedom from attachment, freedom to act intentionally, and freedom to engage with life authentically. Stories of integration illustrate practical embodiment. A teacher, parent, volunteer, and professional, through years of mindfulness, reflection, compassion, and deliberate action, integrates lessons across life domains. Stress is managed, anxiety is tempered, self-doubt is reframed, anger is understood, grief is transformed. Purpose is clarified, and connection is deepened. The result is coherent, resilient, and meaningful engagement with life. As the journey concludes, observe the cumulative impact. Mindfulness anchors awareness and supports skillful response. Compassion fosters ethical engagement and relational depth. Reflection synthesizes lessons and reveals patterns. Impermanence cultivates flexibility and reduces attachment. Purpose guides action and sustains meaning. Connection amplifies impact, resilience, and fulfillment. Integration transforms understanding into practice. Insights about the mind, emotion, and relationships are not abstract concepts, but lived experience. Awareness informs behavior. Compassion directs choice. Purpose aligns action. Connection reinforces ethical and relational engagement. Integration is the embodiment of freedom, wisdom, and peace. Visualization. Imagine life as a river flowing toward the sea. Each tributary stress relationships, anxiety, grief, self-doubt, anger, purpose. Connection merges to form a coherent current. Awareness, mindfulness, compassion, reflection, and deliberate action guide the flow. Life moves with clarity, resilience, and intentionality. Challenges arise, yet the river adapts, flowing steadily toward fulfillment and understanding. Integration also empowers others. As individuals embody mindfulness, compassion, purpose, and connection, relational and communal networks strengthen. Awareness and ethical action influence family, colleagues, and community. Integration magnifies impact, creating ripples of resilience, insight, and well-being across interconnected systems. Stories from diverse experiences illustrate integration. A parent balancing work and family, a volunteer managing community programs, a teacher navigating professional stress, all integrate mindfulness, reflection, compassion, purpose, and connection. As the journey concludes, observe the cumulative impact. Awareness, observing mind, emotions, and body provides clarity. Mindfulness, anchoring in the present, supports skillful response. Compassion extends understanding and care to self and others. Reflection connects lessons, identifies patterns, and guides recalibration. Impermanence encourages flexibility and reduces attachment. Purpose provides direction, meaning, and ethical guidance. Connection strengthens relationships, interdependence, and societal engagement. Integration weaves all elements into coherent, embodied, and dynamic practice. Integration is freedom. Freedom from reactivity, top of form, bottom of form.